Hello, everybody. Hey, it's Josh
Ryan Moore.
and we're here for another episode of Movie Combat. And we will be talking about one of my personal favorites, Aliens. We are now on the 10th movie of our Alien Predator chronology, saga, storyline, whatever you want to call it.
Yep. Two more to go after this one.
Yeah, we're getting close, and I guess just to talk right off the bat here, because there will be a little bit of discrepancy with some of our plot details because I ended up watching the director's cut and you did not. So
I did not.
I might end up adding some stuff that you might not know about. So I just wanted to put that out there.
Yeah,
just in
because
case.
it was James Cameron says that this movie is 2.5 hours long, whereas the original cut was only 2 hours long.
Yeah.
So there's a half an hour extra stuff in this one. So.
Yeah, because I was gonna say this so far is the longest movie of the series.
Yeah, and then I was like, no, it was just 2 hours long.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, because I think the one that I was watching came in at a total time with credits was like 2:39 something.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
But yeah, so I guess if you want to go ahead and get us kicked off for the start.
Oh, am I reading?
Oh yeah, I just I figured you would, or did you want me to start it off? I thought since I introed it, you.
Oh, I do. I don't remember.
Oh yeah, yeah. I think,
We've taken. Okay, so for you guys, it's literally the next week, but we took a little bit of a break. So
Yeah.
because these are recorded ahead of time, so it's a little bit. If it sounds a little bit different of a format, we're gonna try and keep it the same way. We have it all written down of how we're doing this. So yeah, Aliens, a James Cameron film.
yeah.
That was the first thing that I
I
noticed.
put James Cameron exclamation mark.
Yeah, a James Cameron film. We got a different fade in of Aliens.
Mhm.
So it's not like the I almost said Ripley Scott. The Ridley Scott how does he do it? Like those little bars first and then
Yeah,
they
they kind of
slowly
Fade
fade.
in a little
The
bit.
shapes look weird and then
Yeah.
eventually it spells out Aliens or Prometheus or Covenant. We get a frosted ship.
Yeah, it's quite frozen.
Yeah, Ripley is still asleep because this movie picks up immediately after the last movie of Alien.
In a way.
Yeah. There's so much time jumping that I got so confused on what was a
okay.
dream and what wasn't.
Yeah.
And it was there was a lot of Inception type stuff going on in this movie. And then eventually it was just a solid timeline, but I digress. We get the most silent robot scan ever.
Oh, I know.
It fades in and it is so unsettling because you're like, is the speakers working or
Yeah.
what's
Yeah,
going on here?
because the robot cutting through the door is super quiet, and then there's like the robot with the scanner doesn't make a sound, and then even the people when they come in, all you can hear them is just breathing.
Yeah, because James Cameron went more of the real, like what would space sound like, and you wouldn't hear what space in space. If you had a blowtorch, you're not gonna hear that thing. There's nothing. There's no sound.
Yeah.
So yeah, I wrote hazmat suit men, and then the first words spoken are 5 minutes in, solid 5 minutes in, which I noticed. James Cameron did this a lot in this movie. Everything is on solid numbers.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
because
I never keep track of the actual time that people do stuff.
I only do that so that I know how close to the actual timeline of the movie are we at.
Oh, gotcha.
And
okay.
right now, we're a minute behind. But yeah, there's no words happening until 5 minutes in. Ripley is now at Gateway Station. She wakes up and this lady or whatever says that she's in Gateway Station. This guy walks in and he's dressed in a suit, and he goes.
Paul Reiser's character named Burke.
Yeah, he says that she's been out for 57 years.
Yeah. Oh, and Jonesy comes in too. Don't forget about
Jonesy.
Jonesy.
I did write Jonesy. And then all of a sudden, chest burster, and then it's a dream, but then she wakes up in the same hospital,
Yeah.
and then the Bert characters still exist, and I'm so confused on if she actually has been asleep for 57 years
So
because it's never explained.
Well, so she has been asleep for 57 years because I think this is where some of the director's cut stuff comes in.
Okay.
So Bert comes in and talks to her, and then as soon as he says like, "Oh, you've been asleep for 57 years," I think that's when it switches into like dream mode, quote unquote. That's when she starts having her nightmare, and then she wakes up again. But then, like shortly after that, Ripley ends up going into this, like, she's in this little room with like a bunch of trees and stuff.
That is
Like,
not in the original.
oh, okay, yeah. So it's like in Star Trek, you know how they have those fake holograph rooms where it looks like they're outside and there's like woods and there's birds and sounds and stuff like that.
Okay.
So she's in something similar to that. It's a little bit less technologically savvy. It's just like a video of the outside with some trees and a bench around her. Paul Reiser comes in and she's like, "Do you have any information about my daughter?" And he's like, "Oh, well, I mean, we were looking for some stuff, but we got to go to this meeting first. Like, we got to go talk to the heads of the company and this and that, insurance guys, blah, blah, blah." She's like, "Well, I want to know about my daughter." And so what it turns out is that her daughter is actually dead. Her daughter, Amanda, died at 66 years old, 2 years before Ripley awakes. So Ripley is officially asleep for 57 years. And she's like, "I told her I'd be back for her 11th birthday."
See, this adds a whole new
so-
dynamic because in the
Yeah.
first, in the original cut, you don't know that Ripley has a daughter
Oh,
at
okay.
all. Zero of any of it. It's never mentioned whatsoever. And so when another character eventually in this movie gets introduced, you get kind of this weird thing of like, okay, so she's just
Yeah.
this. She just slipped into this motherly role. I wonder why she's doing that so easily.
Yeah.
It's because she is a mom, but we don't see that.
Yeah.
So like as a normal, like just original cut viewing. Now I want to say I do have the director's cut of this movie. It screwed me over because Movies Anywhere doesn't give me the option to choose. It just says like, "Oh, this is the movie that you bought," and then in the special features it says director's cut, and yeah, so that's how I know that I own them. So I'll watch the next one as a director's cut, so that I'll watch if I have them all.
Yeah, because the whole motherly thing kind of changes dynamic with the director's cut too. Because
It's almost like Leon the
ca-
Professional and the Professional type. There's
Yeah.
like a whole subsection that's not even introduced because they just cut that whole part out.
Yeah, because in this one you find out that because Ripley's daughter, they show a picture of her daughter like as an old person, and her daughter never had children, so they didn't carry on
Now,
the family.
Ripley's daughter is in Alien Isolation, right?
Yes, and that's why I wanted to bring up Alien Isolation
Okay.
last time.
Alien Isolation
Because-
being the video game.
Yeah, because Ripley's daughter, Amanda, I think at that point is probably in her mid-20s. It's been
Yeah,
like
right,
15
yeah.
years or so.
She's as old as
And-
Ripley is.
Yeah.
In the first film.
Okay, yeah. And so then she wants to go look for Ripley, and that's why I was kind of being like vague about it before. But she ends up going to another space station. I forget what it was called, because she gets like, "Oh, Ripley might have been here," and I think it was this Gateway station. Maybe I think it was the same station. And so it turned out that there was a xenomorph on that station. It was killing a bunch of people, and she was there, and she was trying to find Ripley, but she never finds her. She only finds the recording that Ripley left on the Nostromo at the end of the first movie, and then she's like, "Okay, I know at least she's alive." And then that's pretty much the end of the game, I think, because she gets stranded out in space and she's waiting for somebody to come pick her up. But yeah, so it's just kind of a weird dynamic because then when you see this in the director's cut and she's like, "Oh, my daughter," or whatever, and you see a picture of her daughter all old and like she's now passed and all this, and there's a weird fact too. The picture of her old daughter is actually a picture of Sigourney Weaver's real mother because they look so similar.
Huh.
And yeah, and so they were like, "Oh, okay, well, we'll make her the daughter or whatever."
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and so it was kind of a cool thing. But that's about it with the daughter stuff. She just basically finds out that she's dead.
So after that whole thing, you mentioned the business meeting.
Mhm.
You do catch the back end of the business meeting where Ripley is like, "I've been in here for 3 fucking hours and this and that and the other deal."
Yeah.
And by the way, I wrote this. I almost wrote this numerous amounts of times. Well, actually, I'll get to that in a second. So they mentioned that like, "Oh, you blew up a $42 million ship."
Yeah.
And I'm like, 42
Not
million?
including payload.
Well, yeah, and then I was like, $42 million. That's not that expensive for a spaceship?
And that was adjusted dollars, as he said. He was like 42 million in adjusted dollars.
So I'm like, man, that's not too expensive for a spaceship.
Yeah, I guess I guess like spaceships are not super expensive in the future.
Now here's my. We all know based on our last episodes that we've done this whole season, we love movie quotes that make the main character sound like a badass.
Yes.
One of my favorite lines here is, "Did IQs drop while I was away?"
Oh yeah.
And that's from Ripley, and I was like, "Oh my god, it's so good."
That's right.
And I wrote, and she goes on a tangent in this whole meeting, which is so awesome. I wrote, Ripley is awesome in this movie, and I'm only 11 minutes in.
Yeah, dude. Like I said in the last one, Ripley is probably my favorite, and I don't care what anybody says. She's my favorite female superhero because to me, she's a complete badass, and I've never seen her like on screen. Like she's totally cool, and like she seems like she'd be one of those cool chicks that you'd be like cool to hang out with, but then in turn she's a total badass, you know?
Yeah. So they mention that they sent something to the planet that Ripley just came back from.
Yeah.
What happened on that? What has happened on that planet since Ripley has been gone?
Okay, so Ripley's been floating through space for 57 years, and then when she's like, just go and check the planet or whatever, so basically she gets her license suspended because the people don't believe her. They're like alien schmalians.
Yeah, that's the thing. Is like out of all these things, they think that she's crazy because she
Right.
believes in a supposed life form that they couldn't never heard of before.
Right.
I'm like, dude, you guys literally just learned how to travel in space.
Yeah.
That shouldn't be like an obscure thing to find other living forms,
Yeah.
but apparently it's so outrageous they don't believe her.
Yeah, and so she gets her license suspended, and they're like, you got to get some psychoanalysis and all this stuff.
Yeah, but she's actually crazy.
Yeah, but they're not going to charge her for the explosion of the ship because they're like, oh, well, you did it on purpose or whatever. But then when she's like, just go check the planet out, and they're like, we don't have to. There have been colonists there for 20 years. And this is LV-426, which is the moon that they had landed on before. And then here's where another director's cut thing, I think, happens. Because does it cut to Hadley's Hope, which is the name of the colony?
No, so before that, they mention... So before we cut to you... they mentioned that 70 families live on the planet from the first movie. Okay. The next thing is when they're in Ripley's room. So go ahead.
Oh, okay, yeah. So before that happens in the director's cut, we actually do meet somebody that appears later in the movie, but I won't spoil it. And so basically, what we see is that Hadley's Hope is the name of the colony on this place, and there's something about some miners that are sent to a grid location. Basically, there's this big wig in this office, and he's walking around this place with a bunch of scientists, and he's got this really sweaty shirt on, and then this guy's like, hey, these people that went out to these coordinates that you sent them to said that they might have found something. And he's like, so what about it? And he's like, well, he wants to know if you found something, then is it his claim? Is he allowed to have it? And he's like, look, as far as I'm concerned, if he finds something, he can have it. And then there's this part where you were just talking about a kid riding on a tricycle. So,
well, I didn't mention it on the podcast, but
right,
like
before
we
we
recorded, because they showed a little bumper of like, here's what you missed in the other thing.
Yeah.
Check it out, and like, there's the real cut. And so I saw some things, but I don't know what the context of them were.
Yeah, so basically they were on a level that they weren't supposed to be on. It's sub-level 3 of this like plant or whatever that's there, and so you see a bunch of kids, and the guy's like, "Hey, kids, you weren't supposed to be playing here. Get out of here!" And then you see the kid on the tricycle like wheeling away, like it's like I'm a child.
After I saw that part, I was like, "Wow, is this The Shining?" Like,
yeah,
it was just weird.
But then it cuts to the family. Oh, and then actually, this is the first time you see a whale and Yutani sign as well.
Oh, I thought you said a whale. I was like,
oh no!
Wow, Star Trek. We got the space whales.
Yeah, because there's one on the tricycle and there's one on a box that the kid rides by. And
now I want to say,
zooms in on that sign.
Other than that sign that you just said, never is it mentioned in this film in the regular cut.
Yeah,
because
they say
mentioned
the
company.
Yep.
Yeah, quote unquote.
Yeah, because Paul Reiser's like, I work for the company. Don't worry, I'm not a bad guy.
Yeah, exactly. And you're like, why can't you just say what the company is?
Yeah, exactly. Because I don't know why they were trying to hide it so much, but basically, it cuts to this family. It's 2 parents and 2 kids, a boy and a girl. And the parents are like, hey, we're like driving around, we're gonna go explore or whatever, and they're talking, and then they find a very familiar ship that we know of, a derelict ship that we might know of. And then the parents are like, hey, like, we found something, blah, blah, blah. And then the mom says something about calling it in. And then the dad's like, oh, well, we shouldn't call it in before we know what we got. So let's go inside and check it out. They disappear for a long time. And then like cut back to the kids. Oh, they've been gone a long time. And then all of a sudden the mother bursts in, Mayday, Mayday, Mayday. And then there's a face hugger on the dad's face. Then cuts to Ripley back in her room.
Got it. And then at this point, none of that happened
Yeah.
because all we get in the regular edition is it goes from that part of when Burke is talking about there's colonies over on this thing, and then it just cuts to Ripley in her room with Jones, and you're just like with Jonesy, and you're like, oh, I don't.
And
This
she's got
is-
that
this is a-
cigarette with the huge ash on
Yeah,
it.
well, it's just a close up on the cigarette,
Yeah.
and it's been like has this long drag
I
like on it,
love when they do that.
which
in
is
movies.
which means she hasn't smoked from it at all. She's just let it burn.
Yeah.
So she's just literally sitting there in secondhand smoking this stuff and thinking about whatever. And Burke and a Marine of some sort walk in.
Sergeant Gorman.
Gorman. Okay. See, could not track on who the fuck anyone.
Oh, dude, I was keeping track of
I
all
was
their
trying
names,
to
man.
figure out. I was like, are they gonna say this guy's name? And then they say it like 3 times, and I missed him. So I'm like, all right, well, whatever. So I will reference to him. You'll probably know him though.
yeah, I'll give you names if you don't know.
But they walk in and they're like, "Oh yeah, we need your help because we lost contact with the planet." But as far as we know, it just was like it was all happy-go-lucky,
Right.
and then now it's just shit.
yeah,
because some sort of time frame has passed, and because
yeah,
they
'cause, like,
wanna
I think a
send-
few weeks has gone by at this
they
point.
have no,
But
they don't reference
don't-
it at
yeah,
all.
They don't say anything about it, but I think you're just supposed to infer that, like, oh, it's been time passed.
Yeah,
you know?
because now she lives in like what assumed the ghetto of the ship. I don't know.
and she
The
works.
hallways look
she
like
works
shit.
in like the not the construction, but the loading bay or loading docks or whatever.
Well, see, that was another because I wrote that down too.
oh, okay.
But like, they want to send Ripley and the Colonial Marines, and I was like, Colonial Marines. That's another the AVP
Mhm.
Colonial or no Colonial Marines is just the game, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's just a Colonial Marines game. Not very good though. Some time has passed because okay. So this is the thing. I wrote some time has passed because Ripley has a job on the ship now.
Mm-hmm.
Not explained. I was like, wow, okay, well, but either way, it doesn't mean anything because they're just gonna blow right past it because now she has a new job. They're offering her to go down there and help out the crew, or how about the Colonial Marines, so they can figure out what's going on down there.
Yeah.
And at first she's not. She's totally against it.
Yeah.
So
I'm
Burke.
not going back.
So Burke drops his business card,
Which is
question
made
mark?
out of plastic.
Yeah, I was like a see-through. And then come to find out, it's actually a call card because
Yeah.
Ripley has sweaty dreams. She has night terrors.
Mhm.
So she just wakes up and she goes, "All right, to clear my conscience, I'm gonna do this." So she takes the card and she sticks it into this computer thing,
Yeah.
and then she essentially has like FaceTime with this other guy, with Burke, and accepts the job. And so I'm like, the business card is your phone number too? How crazy is that?
Yeah, it's kind
Um,
of cool. She does say something really cool here because this is one of my favorite things where she goes, Burke, if we're going out there to destroy them, not study, not bring them back, but to kill them, right? And he's like, you have my word. And she's like, I'm in. And then just hangs up on him. And it's like,
And then she goes, she turns to Jonesy and goes, "You're gonna wait here, you shithead." So I was like,
yeah, it's like, I'm not coming back. I'm not going to go looking for you again, you stupid cat.
yeah. And so the next scene is they're all in new sleep pods. These are
Yep.
different ones.
Cut
They
to
like
the
open
Sulaco.
up. They open up on top, and then they open up on the middle bottom.
Yeah.
And then you
Future sleep
stand.
pods.
Yeah. Because the other sleep pods weren't futuristic enough.
Well, yeah, I guess. Or future sleep pods.
And
Yeah.
I was like, what was the black guy's name?
Oh, okay. So, yeah, I can
Or
tell.
I guess the sergeant dude, the guy that looked like he was from Halo.
Okay, yeah, I can tell you all. I can tell you all their names. So the name of the ship is the Sulaco. It's
Okay,
the
I never
Colonial
got
Marine
that.
Ship. Yep,
Okay.
it was just on the side. They don't actually put it anywhere.
They
in the
do a
movie.
lot. James
Um,
Cameron definitely did a lot of subtle
Yeah.
info stuff of like if you looked in the background and you saw it at the right moment,
Yes.
you got information. But if you didn't, it was never told to you.
Yeah, because they never really say the Marines' names until like later on in the movie when they're yelling at each other and stuff. Only a few main characters, but for most of the characters, you only see the names on like their video cameras or like in the first shot
Yeah, that was
when it introduces them. There's a screen that lists all their names, right? So there's Gorman, which is the sergeant. Apone's the black guy. He's like the next in charge, I think. I
yeah.
think
Every
he's
time they said his name, it
corporal or-
always sounds like Apom.
Yeah, yeah.
And I
And
was like,
I
oh.
always thought it was funny. I think he's a corporal, and then I think Hicks is a lieutenant. That's Michael Biehn, who is in Terminator. Then there's Pharaoh Vasquez, who's fucking awesome. Drake, Spunkmeyer, Dietrich, Frost.
Spunkmeyer.
Yeah.
As soon as I heard his name, I was like,
Fucking
no
Spunkmeyer,
fucking
dude.
way his name is Spunkmeyer.
Yeah. Wierzbowski, Crow, Bishop, Hudson, which is Bill Paxton.
Yeah,
oh, and
our boy Bill.
yeah, and Bishop.
Rest in peace, Bill.
And remember Bishop too, because remember a few episodes back in AVP we had said something about Bishop being a very key character.
Yes.
And we get introduced to Bishop here, which we will all recognize is played by the same guy, but a younger version of him because this movie took place or was filmed before that movie.
Yeah.
But I want to say that this, well, we'll get to it later.
Okay.
And then Ripley and Burke. So those are all the people, but Apone's the guy that you're talking about, the black dude.
Yeah, and I wrote Paxton at 19 minutes in.
Yeah, dude.
And then he goes, Paxton and was it Apone or
Apone.
Apone, Paxton and Apone's so Hudson and Apone's characters interactions with each other are
they're
so
good.
awesome because Paxton gets up and he starts sassing off immediately
Yep.
in good Paxton fashion, and then Apone goes, "Look into my eye."
Yeah.
It's like, oh my god, this is already off to a great start.
And then so they start heading to the lockers, and Vasquez is doing pull-ups, right?
Yeah.
And then Bill Paxton comes over there, still mouthing off, and he goes, "Hey, Vasquez, you ever been mistaken for a man?" And then she goes, "No, I haven't. Have you?"
I wrote that down too.
So good, dude. Oh, my god.
It reminds me of when he was in Predator 2. And you're like, this is what it should have been.
Yeah.
But in Predator 2, for some reason, they messed it up.
Yeah.
And I don't know how they were able to do that. But in this movie, they've definitely
they
nailed
they
his
they
part.
couldn't get his lines right in Predator 2, but in this one they're all like written
Yeah,
perfectly.
I don't know if he came up with them himself, but they're really good.
Yeah, I'm sure some of it was probably off the cuff. I wouldn't doubt it.
21 minutes in, 5-finger fillet.
Okay, yeah, and then I remember we were talking about that prior to,
I think it was prior to this podcast.
like, I can't remember what it was, but I remember
Because in
us-
Red Dead, we were talking about in Red Dead maybe.
Yeah, we were talking about the 5-finger thing at some point, I think for one of the other
Oh,
movies
okay.
or something, and I thought we were like, oh, remember the 5-finger thing, because didn't they do that in one of the Predator movies?
I don't
I can't recall, but
remember it being in that.
yeah, I don't remember, but I thought we had made a point to be like, oh, just remember the 5-finger thing or the 5-finger fillet because that'll come up later.
Yeah,
And-
because there were several things that happened in this movie that I didn't know were actually from this movie. The 5-finger fillet, I didn't know what alien it was in. I actually thought it was in
okay.
the first one.
Oh, gotcha,
and then I was
gotcha.
like, oh, it's not in the first one. I wonder when it's going to show
Yeah.
up. And then as soon as Hudson goes, "Hey Bishop,
Yeah.
why don't you show me that the
knife trick."
Yeah, the knife trick." And then they grab him, and he's like,
Yeah,
"Hey,
puts his
hey,
hand-
hey,
What are you doing,
hey,
man?"
Hey, man, hey, man."
He's
His
just screaming.
facial expression is so good in this scene.
And the dude's going so fast.
Yeah, Bishop is totally going crazy on it.
Yep.
Eventually, Bishop sits over where Ripley and the rest of the higher ups are sitting at,
Mm-hmm.
and it goes on mentioning that Bishop is a robot, and Ripley gets into this racist tangent about robots.
Freaks out.
And okay, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say they do say something about it being a Hyperdyne model or whatever, and this
Yeah,
is
he mentions that. What was it on the other ship?
so-
And then
yeah.
someone says oh, it was the
like Hyperdyne 081.
Yeah,
model
and then he's like, oh,
T
well,
or
yeah,
something.
they always had problems
Yeah,
and
they were
thinking
always
for themselves
a
or
bit
whatever.
twitchy.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know?
twitchy, and I'm like,
yeah,
and so Ripley's like, okay,
yeah, just stay the
just
fuck away
yeah,
from me.
I think that's
Um,
actually what she says too.
But the reason why I bring up Hyperdyne is because Cyberdyne, I think, is a Terminator company, and Hyperdyne is in Aliens, which James Cameron. I wonder if it was kind of like a very loose connection.
yeah,
you know?
maybe.
Like,
There was
but,
another
yeah.
term that was dropped 23
Oh,
minutes in.
Yes.
Xenomorph
Yep.
gets dropped for the first time
Yep. And that
ever
was
in this whole series.
that was Sergeant Gorman who said it.
We made it 10 movies in, and we officially hear the term Xenomorph.
Which I never knew they actually said in the movie.
Yeah,
Like,
they only mention it this one time, though.
Yeah.
They never say it again.
yeah, never realized that they even said it in the movie.
But see, what's weirder is they gave it a name.
Mm-hmm.
They've never seen it. Only Ripley has seen it.
Yeah, that's really strange.
So maybe it's just we need a term for this, so we need to
Yeah.
come up with a thing, and they came up with Xenomorph.
Yeah, because Xeno is, I want to say, Greek for stranger, and morph is obviously morph, like metamorphosis or whatever. So I guess maybe they were coming up with the idea that it was like, oh, it's a strange morphing creature, like
Maybe.
based on Ripley's description of it. Did you get the next quote that's really good from Hudson?
Is it only thing I need to know?
No, that's Vasquez.
Oh, Vasquez says that, yeah. So after I did get another quote from yes, I did get another quote.
Okay,
from
when he's
Vasquez.
like, any questions or whatever.
But
But go ahead and do the Vasquez.
yeah,
thing first.
so
'Cause she asked
Ripley,
that first.
Ripley says gives off all these things of don't do this, don't do that. This thing is crazy.
Yeah.
You're gonna probably die. Just da da da. da.
Yeah.
And then Vasquez goes, the only thing I need to know is just where I need to aim or something like that.
Yeah, where they are.
Yeah,
And
where
she-
they are.
She points her finger into like guns.
And then the other guy's
whatever.
like, yeah, Vasquez.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what kind
Yeah.
of 80s shit is
that's
this?
that's Drake, and he's totally in love with Vasquez.
Oh, yeah, they're totally boning. I don't even. And then
yeah.
I got the assholes and elbows.
Oh,
from
yeah, yeah.
Paxton.
Yeah, well, because Gorman first, like after they're finished, kind of doing their brief or whatever.
Yeah,
Gorman's like, okay, she put all of her information on the CD or whatever. Go fucking watch it, and he's
And then
like,
Ripley interrupts again and then says something else. And then he says it again of
yeah,
it's on a CD. Go watch it.
yeah, and then he's like, any questions? And then Hudson raises his hand. He's like, what, Hudson? And he's like, yeah, how do I get out of this chicken shit outfit?
I remember that too.
Yeah,
I remember that too.
and then that's when Apone, I think Apone, he's the one like assholes and elbows, people assholes, because he's telling them all to get ready.
Oh
or
yeah, he
whatever.
goes assholes and elbows. Hudson, get down here. Get down here.
Yeah, and then it just cuts.
Yeah.
Like you don't even get to see him get like reprimanded or anything.
Oh man, it
And-
was
and
so
my,
good.
My favorite thing about Apone is he's constantly chewing on a fucking cigar.
Yeah,
He never
he's-
smokes it.
Yep,
Just
yeah.
always chewing on it.
Then we get Avatar Mech.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I'm like, gee, I wonder where James Cameron got this idea. Like,
So-
he used this idea again later on in his life.
This is one of my favorite movie or scenes in the movie because Ripley just shows how badass she is. Because
It was a very useless scene, but a necessary scene all at the same time.
yeah, it just proves her character's so cool because she's just like, hey, I kind of feel like a fifth wheel around here. What can I do? And
What
they're
can you do?
yeah, well, I can drive that loader over there, and then she gets in the loader and she's all fucking showing off, and then she just like picks up something. She's like, where do you want it?
Do you remember what pose she does? The
Yeah.
where do you want, like the across the body? Where do you want
she
it?
like turns it,
And then they both start laughing because
Yeah.
they're like, it was very funny. On how
I'm
she
just like,
explained
dude, Ripley's so cool, man.
it. And so they eventually get all loaded up and
Yep,
blah blah blah.
Lots of guns.
Yeah, things. They get on
Vehicles,
a ship
missiles.
and they start landing. They start driving down to the drop. They're doing a drop down to the planet.
Yeah.
And as soon as they start falling, Hudson goes, "Express elevator to hell."
Yeah.
I'm like, what an asshole! This guy's such a dick.
He's so funny, dude.
He's such a dick in this movie.
Yep.
Oh,
it was.
man.
This has only been Gorman's second combat drop because I think he looked like a little nervous.
Including this one.
Yeah,
He
yep.
mentions that. He goes, I've done like 62 simulated.
Yeah.
And then they're like, how many have you actually done? 2. This one included. And they're like, oh, shit.
yeah. And then it pans to Hicks, which is Michael Bean's character. And he's fucking passed out.
Yeah, he's just
like-
sleeping. He's
Yeah.
just sleeping like it's a drive in the evening.
And then Bill Paxton's up running around. He's just like, "Hey, don't worry, Ripley. Me and my team of ultimate badasses is gonna keep you safe. I'm badass, ultimate badass right here."
I totally forgot he says that.
So fucking funny. Oh my god. Yeah.
Oh, man. Oh, man.
Fucking Bill Paxton is like gold in this movie, man. He
God.
he makes this movie so fucking funny.
He does. Honestly, oh, man. I wish there was more movies where Bill Paxton.
Like
Sorry.
played this character or something.
No,
yeah.
I mean, like, I wish there was more interactions with Hudson and Apone
Oh, yeah.
because, oh my god, I felt like I didn't get enough
Yeah.
but maybe that was enough.
Because I think at one point, I think Apon's just like, Hudson, sit the fuck down. It's like, stop fucking around.
Strap in now.
Yeah.
We get POV cameras again and heart rate monitors.
Yep.
And then I noticed that the pilot was wearing sunglasses
Yeah.
in dark and rainy conditions.
Yeah.
I'm like, I go, wearing sunglasses as a pilot in dark and rainy conditions
They were
makes you a better
aviators.
pilot.
Yep.
I'm like, dude, you're driving in space.
So weird. But
But
yeah, they arrive at the station, no visible activity.
yeah, I wrote the outpost is a ghost town.
Yep.
But we get some cool, awesome machine guns on a mechanical gimbal, which are essentially
Oh,
recycled camera gimbals. Those are the. You ever notice when they're like, when you're watching a movie and someone's full on sprint, but the camera is somehow lining up with them?
Mhm.
Is because they're wearing this like harness so that the camera can sit on this gimbal.
Oh, right.
And
Yeah.
and it can pan without being like this jobbled up mess, and you get motion sickness from it.
You're talking about the smart guns, I think, right? The ones
Yes,
that Vasquez and Drake had.
Yeah, so those are literally, that's what they're using. They're using the exact same thing. All they did was make the prop of the gun and attached it to
Yeah.
that thing, which I thought was really cool.
Those guns are really cool.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
And I wrote POV footage is actually good and doesn't make me sick like in the first film that we saw.
Yeah.
Good Lord, those were garbage.
So, quick question.
Quick
so,
answer.
So the parts. So you're saying you got the POV shots and stuff. Did you get anything with them picking up like, or looking at the melted grating, or like picking up the motion of the pet or whatever?
I wrote. Well, okay. At this point, they just pulled the. They've just pulled out the motion trackers,
Okay.
and then I noticed, why do the motion trackers not track the Marines?
That is a good question.
But then they mentioned later on in the movie, is that us?
Yeah.
And I'm like, it wasn't fucking tracking you before.
Yeah.
Like, why would you think it's you now? I don't know. I just thought it was weird. It could only track the xenomorphs. I also noticed this is going back into James Cameron's plugging into things that you won't see.
Mhm.
Vasquez's gun says adios on it. I don't know if you
nice.
noticed that.
Yeah, because I was gonna say the pilot, her helmet had "Fly the Friendly Skies" on
Oh, I
it.
didn't see that part,
Yeah.
But then floors melted through. Okay.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So
So
go
I,
ahead.
I wasn't sure if that was in like the normal version. Yeah, because they find the melted grating, and they're like looking at it. But because right before that, Hudson picks up something on his monitor, and he's like, "Oh, I got something, and it's him and Vasquez. I think they're partnered up at that point because they split up into groups of
Yeah,
twos.
everyone's split up.
And then they bust into this room, and it's just a little pet mouse in like a cage or whatever.
That was not in them.
Oh, okay, yeah. And then that was right before they found the melted flooring.
Yeah, and then they all regroup again.
Yeah.
And then they go into this like testing area or this lab of some sort, and Ripley finds face huggers and test tubes.
Yeah, because essentially Gorman's like, oh, it's fine, it's secure. So him, Ripley, Bishop, and Burke all follow them in.
And Hudson.
They were.
Hudson's there too.
Oh well, I meant from the APC. They were still in the APC.
Oh yeah, they eventually leave. Okay, yeah, okay, got
then
it.
they
Yeah.
go in, and then Hudson, Drake. There's a few others that follow him into this little lab, but they find the two face huggers alive in like jars or whatever, and they mention that they tried to remove one, or they removed them from people, but the people died before impregnation or whatever. Bishop reads it on a little.
That I did not hear, but
Oh,
I may have
okay.
been typing at that point. So
Yeah, because Bishop, it's just a quick blurb that Bishop pulls up like a clipboard, and he's just like, "Oh, they
you may have
removed.
said that.
Yeah, they removed before impregnation. Subject died. So and so name, something.
I wrote
yeah, it's just
careful,
quick.
Burke. Ripley's.
Oh yeah,
And then Ripley says, and then the face hugger does a jump scare.
yeah, and then Hicks is like, "Looks like love at first sight to me."
Yeah, yeah.
Like-
The motion tracker starts going off.
Yep.
And then they start walking into the hallway where they're getting closer and closer and closer. And then something jumps across the screen, and they shoot at it, and it's a girl.
Yes, and this is the girl that. So in the director's cut, this is the girl that's in the van that we see in the beginning part of the movie when the guy gets face hugged. It turns out that this little girl survived. Apparently, she's the only one there that they track down. And then they try to get her, but she runs away. But eventually, Ripley tracks her into this little like air duct room kind of thing where she's been living since all the xenomorphs have been running amok. And essentially calms her down because she tries to escape, but she calms her down like, "Hey, you're safe," or whatever. And then they end up taking her back to
Well, she finds a picture frame
yeah,
to get her name, which I was like, how convenient is that?
yeah,
And her name's Rebecca.
yes, yeah, and then they end up taking her back to the like med bay or whatever while the Marines are still looking around.
But on the little car thing still. They're not on the ship, right?
Yeah, no, they're still in like the colony or whatever. They're not near the APC or anything.
Oh, this is still okay. This is still in the thing.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay,
They take Newt back to that med lab that they had just
Got
passed
it.
through.
Got it. And Rebecca won't answer to the questions of the soldiers. And then Ripley gives Rebecca a cup of hot chocolate, and then she says, "Uh-oh, I made a clean spot. I guess I better do the rest."
Yeah, because she wipes off her face or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Newt says, like, Rebecca is what her brother Timmy calls her, and her name is actually Newt.
Yeah, like everybody else calls her Newt.
Which I was like, all right.
Well,
like,
well, I think
wherever that name came from.
Yeah, I think what it is like I'm assuming that she probably got the nickname because she's tiny and like we find her running around through the air ducts and stuff. So I'm assuming that other than her brother calling her Rebecca because that's just what she was to him. Everybody probably called her Newt because she was tiny and able to get around through these little air ducts and stuff because that's just essentially her nickname or whatever. But yeah, she's like nobody calls me Rebecca. Everybody calls me Newt. Yep. And then Ripley's like, "Well, what happened to your brother and your parents?" And she's like, "They're dead. They're all dead. Can I go now?"
Yeah, I wrote that down.
Yep.
So Bishop is dissecting a face hugger, kind of a familiar sight here.
Yep.
Sorry, I'm trying to adjust my microphone here. I kind of shifted. My neck was kind of getting stiff there. Not that you guys care. Then stop. Oh yeah.
He does say
So
Bishop does say it's magnificent, isn't it? When somebody talks to him, and I just thought it was funny because him being another android, which he prefers the term artificial person. He's like dissecting it, and I think Gorman says something to him, or maybe it was Paul Reiser's character. I can't remember who, but he's just like, yeah, magnificent, isn't it? Because he's just like fascinated by the creature, just like all the androids seem to be.
yeah, which is kind of weird.
Yeah.
I don't remember when this line is said, but Paxton says this.
Yeah.
Stop your grinning, drop your linen.
Yeah.
And then they find whatever they needed to find.
Yeah, they were looking for the colonists because they all had
that's
little beacons on them on their person.
They have a wristband. Oh yeah, no, surgically.
Yeah, the colonists have surgical implantations.
Yes,
the Marines
yes.
have little wristband
Yes,
things.
yes.
But yeah, essentially they were looking for the colonists. If they were within 20 kilometers, then they would find them.
Stop your grin and drop your linen.
Yeah.
Oh my God, what a stupid.
Yeah, they find them at the cooling towers, as they said.
Yeah, the soldiers find where the signal of where the citizens should be, and they go down there, and they quickly discover that this is no ordinary spot of this facility.
Yeah.
It's a little added on structures in there.
Yeah.
And
it's really hot in there, but it's a
dry heat. Shut up, Hudson. They find out it's a nest.
Yeah.
And Ripley finds out if the soldiers fire, it could cause an explosion.
Yeah, because they're like right under like basically a nuclear or a fusion reactor of some sort, and essentially if they rupture it, then they're all gonna die.
Yeah, and then chest burster at 1 hour in. How are we already an hour in?
Oh wait,
I feel like I've jumped like halfway through this movie.
Well, don't forget too. Gorman commands Apone to take all the ammo from all the Marines, only flamethrowers. So he hands all the ammo to Frost.
You heard him.
Yeah.
Give me all the weapons.
Yep. And then
Or give me all the ammo.
Drake and Vasquez. Vasquez has two. Like theirs is different. So theirs is a smart gun, which it uses normal ammo, but the way it works is it's like connected through some kind of electronic plug or something. So they have to unplug their guns essentially, and then they give it to Apone. But Vasquez pulls two extra ones out of her vest and gives one to Drake.
Smart move, Vasquez.
Yeah, and so both of them, they still have their guns, but secretly, nobody knows. And then Frost has all the ammo and no grenades either. So all the grenades, all the ammo, all stuck in one little bag.
Yeah.
and then they
And
discover.
then they find someone is stuck to the wall.
Yes.
And that's when Ripley starts freaking out. Why she doesn't say anything, but I guess she might be just frozen with fear.
Yeah, I think she's going through PTSD at that point.
Yeah, this woman is like, "Kill me,
Yeah.
kill me," and they're
Kill
like,
me! I'm right here. Do it.
"Kill
No.
me, do it now." She doesn't say that. And the Colonial Marines are like, "Who do we do? Cut her down!" And so they try to do that, but as soon as they start cutting things away, it starts going.
Yeah.
And it's just, and then it busts out of her, and we get an hour into it. We get to see a chest burster in full action.
Yep. And then they roast the shit out of it with a flamethrower.
I said kill it with fire.
Yep.
But an hour and 1 minute in,
Yep.
the walls start moving,
They shouldn't
and
have
no,
done
it's
that.
not slime. This time, it's the full-grown beasts themselves.
They killed that little baby, and that pissed every single alien in that nest off.
Yeah, the Xenomorphs start crawling out of, like, I guess they were there the whole time. They just didn't see them.
Yeah, they were all like attached to the walls and stuff.
And I wrote Xenomorph first kill an hour and 2 minutes in.
That was
literally 3 minutes, and the Xenomorphs show up. Chestburster pops out. The Xenomorphs are shown, and we get our first kill within 3 minutes.
Yeah, so that was Crow. That was she. She gets carried away. One of the Xenomorphs like comes down, swoops up, or like carries her off. She accidentally burns Frost with a flamethrower, so Frost falls down a shaft of some sort.
That's right. I wrote everyone is dying because
Yes.
there's just so many death scenes here.
And so his bag of ammo and grenades falls down on fire. So Hicks notices it. Get the hell out of the way! Diedrich gets caught in the explosion. He dies. And then Wierbowski gets killed. And then that's just kind of like a quick throwaway death. And then this is when at this point is when Ripley's like, Gorman, you got to get them out of there. Get them out of there. And she pulls up a thing. She's like, get the hell out of there. God damn it.
Because Gorman is like, I told them to call it off. I told them to leave.
Yeah,
and
he's
I'm like,
freaking out.
yeah, he's like, because they didn't listen to him.
Yeah.
And he hasn't experienced that kind of stuff before.
Yeah, he's a kind of inept commander at this point. And
and then Ripley decides to start driving down there to save the soldiers herself. She hijacks the vehicle that they're in.
Apone gets killed by this point because, because basically she tells them to get out. Apone's looking around, and then he gets killed. His camera goes dark, and then, Ripley's like, fuck this, and then she drives in with the APC.
They get down there. Everyone's running around. Hudson is grabbed on to somebody. He has somebody. But then everyone eventually is running on their own. I don't know. Everything got all jumbled up in this part. There's so much stuff happening.
Yeah, they
that
were all
didn't
just
quite
trying
figure out. Yeah, they're just trying to leave.
Yeah.
We gotta get the fuck out of here, man.
I think he was hanging on to Hicks, if I'm not mistaken.
And so they get down there, and Vasquez gets in there. Hudson is holding on to Vasquez. What's his face? The other guy with the gun is
Drake.
Yeah, is shooting with his gun at a Xenomorph. Xenomorph pops up from behind him.
Yes.
And he shoots the Xenomorph in the head or something, and the blood sprays onto his face.
Yeah.
And they're like, he's out, he's gone, we gotta go, we gotta go.
Vasquez is having none of it. She wants to go back and save him, but Drake's pretty much a melted pile of mess at this point.
Yeah.
He gets splashed with acid, like hardcore.
Ripley does a burnout to get everyone out of here Fast and Furious style. And then after everything's all she's driving still, and then she runs over a Xenomorph, which causes the acid blood to spray onto the vehicle.
Yep.
And it breaks something on the car.
Transaxle.
Yeah. And who was talking to her? Was that Hudson or was that the other guy?
Hicks.
Hicks was talking
when they
to
stopped.
Yeah, because there were some scenes where they both look the same. Have you? Did you notice that?
Hudson and Hicks. Yeah, they looked pretty close. Plus, their names are so similar that you can kind of get them mixed up.
So anyway,
and they do mention as they're driving away that they look at the screen or whatever, and they say, "Oh, Diedrich and Apone aren't dead or whatever."
They might as well be, or something. But
yeah, because Ripley's like, they might as well be. They're being cocooned right now. We can't go back for them.
So that's the last of them.
Yeah.
After Ripley stops, she goes over to Newt and says, "You okay?" And then she gets a thumbs up.
I love that.
I'm like, what the heck?
Newt's so cool.
And so Ripley suggests that she wants to go back up in space and nuke it.
Yes.
But the business guy
Yes.
doesn't because the site is expensive.
Yeah, it's like a $42 billion investment or something like that.
And then I have a quote
oh,
from
okay,
Hudson.
yeah. Okay. Because I have one from Ripley because he's like, because he says like, oh, it's so and so amount of money or whatever, and then Ripley's like, well, they can bill me.
Yeah, that was and then I think it's immediately after that he's like, Hudson goes, "You may not be keeping up on current events, but we just got our asses kicked."
yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And then it cuts to them telling the guys in the ship to fly over and pick them up.
Yeah.
And so the girl is like, "Spunkmeyer, let's
Yeah.
go." And I was like,
Yeah.
what the
And he
fucking
puts his
name?
hand in some
Why-
goo and he's like, wait
Yeah,
a minute.
I was like, first off, why is Spunkmeyer not in this movie more than he
Yeah.
is? Because with a name like that, that would have lasted eons.
Yes.
But anyway, so yeah, Spunkmeyer runs in, finds slime on a crate before they go up to go get the soldiers.
Yeah, doesn't really think anything of it.
The Xenomorph then kills the pilot. Ship goes down, crashes, and then we get two of the most famous lines from this movie.
Yes.
We get Bill Paxton's line and we get Newt's line.
You can do Bill Paxton. I'll do
Okay.
Newt.
Okay. He's like, "Game over, man. Game over."
What the fuck are we gonna do now?
Yeah.
Yeah, because so that's like basically the ship crashes. They're all like, we're fucked, and then
We're so fucked. It's game over, man. Game over.
and then Ripley goes up to Newt and she's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, Newt." Blah blah blah. And Newt's like, "Oh, we're not gonna get off the planet now." And she says no, and then she's like, "Well, it's getting dark soon. They mostly come at night. Mostly."
What was that from? Okay.
South Park made fun of
South
it.
Park made fun of it.
Yeah.
Okay. I was like, God, what is that from?
Yeah,
I
it was Cartman's character. I think he did something and he kept saying, "Mostly come at night, mostly." or
Yeah.
something. Yeah.
Okay, now I remember now. Because I was like, man, I know this is from this movie, but
Yeah.
someone copied this. Okay, I remember that now. So they Ripley, I think, asks like how long it would take if for people to come looking for him. They say it take about 17 days for anyone to
Yeah.
come looking for them. And then Hudson
Yeah.
starts having the most mental breakdown anyone could possibly have.
saw it there, man, but we won't even last 17 hours.
Hudson, get a hold of yourself. This little girl has been alive all by herself this whole time. Well, then put her in charge.
He's having like a hardcore mental breakdown.
It's so awesome. It's so
Oh my
awesome.
god, so funny. Yeah, they salvaged some stuff from the wreckage. They end up getting a few pulse rifles. They got 4 like sentry guns or whatever, and they have a couple flamethrowers. One of them half full, and one they're not sure if it even works. But yeah, just to say what weapons they had because
Yeah.
they did salvage some stuff. But
So Ripley gets a locator from Hicks.
yeah. Oh wait. Okay. So
I may have skipped some parts here.
Oh,
'Cause
okay,
I
'cause-
got so fascinated with this movie at some points I just started watching.
oh,
And then I
okay.
was like, oh shit, and they started writing again.
Because I don't know if this is like director's cut stuff. Because after Hudson freaks out, Ripley's like, "Go look for some blueprints or something so we can formulate a plan." And he's like, "Okay, man. Okay, I'll go get it."
I
So
I
then-
love how he uses man a lot.
Yeah.
He's like, all right, man. All right.
Yeah. It's like, he's like a surfer dude, kind of. It's really.
Oh
funny.
yeah, he's definitely from
Um,
the Californian side of Earth now.
Yeah. And so then they lay out these blueprints essentially, and they start making a choke point plan where they're like, if we seal off these
Oh
entrances,
yeah, they're like
yeah, and then if we
doing
seal
all
off this
blueprints, yeah.
tunnel, put up the sentries here, put up the sentries here, we can make them come in only these 2 spots, and then that way we'll have like some, like we'll be able to make our stand or whatever. And then and through this, I didn't write specifically what they said to each other, but Hicks and Ripley, you can see that they kind of have some like sexual chemistry going on. Like
Okay.
they're flirting a little
Yeah,
bit
yeah, I
when
didn't
they're
notice that,
talking
yeah.
to each other. And I can't remember exactly what they said, but you can tell that like even when she was like, "We need to nuke the planet" or whatever, Hicks is like, "Yeah, we need to nuke the planet. It's the only way to be sure." And you could tell like they're
Yeah.
starting
Oh
to get
yeah.
along.
Because to rewind a little bit, the captain now is passed out. I don't remember.
Oh
how
yeah,
that
so
happened.
yeah, Gorman's out, and so Hicks is next in charge.
Yeah, and so Burke was like, "Well, that's not what the plan was." Blah blah blah, and this and that. And then
Yeah.
Ripley's like, "Well, according to such and such rules, Hicks is now in charge."
Mhm.
And then they all look at him to like see what he's going to
Yeah.
decide, and then Hicks goes, "Well, I think we need to go up into space and nuke
Yeah.
the planet."
Yeah, he
so-
essentially just quotes exactly what Ripley said. So you can tell those two are like, it's it's not necessarily like a love interest, but you can tell there's like a few sparks like
Yeah, there's something
kindling
going on
there
there.
a little bit.
So yeah, Ripley gets a locator from Hicks.
Yep.
Then seems to have. Oh yeah.
Oh,
I
that's what it was.
Ripley gets a locator
Yeah.
from the soldier that seems to have the hots for her.
Yeah, because he's like, well, this doesn't mean we're engaged or nothing, and then
Yeah,
she just smiles at him. And it's like, oh man,
yeah,
those
yeah,
two are
yeah. I was like,
flirting
man,
it
that's
up.
smooth. This guy knows how to do it. And then we get introduced to Casey when Ripley is taking Newt to go
Oh
and
right,
take a nap. Casey is Newt's doll, which is literally just a head.
yeah.
And then she
Yeah.
goes, "Well, I don't think Casey has any bad dreams and blah blah blah." And she's like, "Yeah, because she's just a piece of plastic or something like that."
Yeah.
And I'm like,
And
"Oh,
she's
okay."
like, Newt, you're right. Yeah, yeah, because this is when you kind of get like, because this is the only time that Ripley mentions that she has a daughter, because Newt asks her, she's like, "Did you have a daughter or did you have any kids?" And she's like, "Yeah, I had a daughter." And she's like, "Oh, well, where is she?" And she's gone. That means she's dead, right? Yeah.
That's not even in the movie.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because they
Oh.
cut all of that out.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess that's director's cut. Yeah,
Yeah.
because they talk a little bit about Ripley's daughter, and then essentially that's where you kind of get your mother-daughter surrogate bonding time.
Yeah, they just mention like, "Oh yeah, don't be afraid. I'm gonna watch you through
Yeah.
that camera right there." and
Oh,
blah,
okay.
blah, blah.
Does she give her the locator?
Yeah, she puts the
Okay.
locator on that because that eventually becomes a thing.
Oh,
later.
okay. Yeah, because they just must have cut the daughter talk then.
Ripley gives the tracker to Newt.
Mm-hmm.
Bishop says that Burke wants to take them. Oh, yeah. So Ripley starts talking about like, about
They're talking about
how did that get even brought up?
They're
I can't
talking-
remember how that got brought up.
Well, they're talking about the hive and whatever, and they're like, oh, they just keep coming, and then Hudson brings up like, well, maybe they're like ants. They have some kind of hive or something. And then Vasquez is like, no, those are bees, you idiot. And he's like, well, it doesn't matter. Like they have like, the main girl in charge. You know what I mean? Like a queen or something. And then they're talking about that.
That's
and
not,
then-
I don't remember that either.
oh, maybe that was part of the director's cut too.
Yeah.
Because then Bishop comes in and he starts talking about the face huggers or whatever, and then he mentions that Burke wants to take them back.
Okay,
for
maybe
study.
that was in there, but again, I might have been writing it that way.
Yeah,
so.
I mean, it was real quick. It was like
Yeah.
a 2-minute scene, and then it just led straight into Burke or Bishop talking about Burke wanting to take the specimens back.
yeah.
Yeah, and then Ripley fucking freaks out.
Yeah, because because I wrote Burke says that, or I'm sorry, Bishop says that Burke wants to take them back to Earth to sell them, and Ripley gets livid
Yeah.
because that was the one thing that she said on even the phone call. She
Yeah.
says, "We're only going there we're not bringing anything back," and da da da. And he's like, "Yeah," and then Ripley decides to go snooping around on some files. You don't get to see this happening, but she goes to Burke and throws out that you were the one that sent the colonists here.
Yep.
And then they get into an argument, and then I don't know if there's gonna be. There is a line. I wrote a quote down here where Burke goes, "I thought you'd be smarter than this," and then Ripley goes,
Yeah.
"I'm glad to disappoint you," and then walks out of the room.
Oh.
But there's stuff that happens before that. So.
Well, when she slams him against the wall because she gets pissed, she
Oh
grabs
yeah,
him by.
I was gonna write this down too. Sigourney Weaver does some grade A acting in this movie.
Oh,
in
yeah.
in this scene right here.
So good. Like, yeah, and she's like pissed off, and she grabs Burke by like the collar of his shirt and slams him against the wall.
Which I don't know if
And-
that was in the script.
Yeah, it seemed
because
like
he
it
was very surprised about it.
yeah. And then she says, "I'll nail you, Burke." Or well, no, sorry, that doesn't quote. She goes, "I'll nail you right to the wall, like because she gets mad at him or whatever about the Xenomorph. And then I think she says you're the line that you just said, and then she ends up walking out.
Yeah.
Yeah, that part's so funny.
What
yeah.
it says? Oh, I think I wrote a note here. The acting is really good. The emotions seem like real reactions of people in the situation.
Mhm.
Because so this is when they walk back into that like map area where they were looking at it.
Mhm.
Hudson is freaking the fuck out. Hicks is trying to calm the situation down. Ripley is full on just in badass mode, so she's trying to like form a plan, and everyone seems to be reacting in a actual appropriate manner that people probably would be freaking out in.
Yeah. Yeah, Ripley's probably the only one with like, other than Bishop being an android, like Ripley's obviously got the most calm head because she's dealt with this before, and so she's a little bit more experienced. Hicks he's doing a good job like leading at this point because Gorman's still knocked out and he being in charge, he's got to kind of keep a level head, but he's still like you can tell he's worried. Hudson's fucking freaking out because he's just a private.
He's essentially
and,
us.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
He's what we would be doing in this situation.
Yeah, and then Vasquez is still badass because she's just tough as nails. And then, and then Burke's being a fucking a little weasel because he's a corporate head honcho
So
or
they
whatever.
come up with a plan of sending Bishop down this like really claustrophobic pipe.
Oh, I know. I don't even know how he crawled through that. It looked like
He said it would take him 45 minutes.
Yeah.
I'm like, no.
Yeah.
But since he's an android, he doesn't have emotion, so it's whatever.
Yeah.
But I love this. I don't know if he caught this. Vasquez hands him a gun. He looks at the gun, looks
yeah.
it back and forth, hands it to Ripley, and then just like, that's it. The gun
Yeah.
is just, then Ripley takes the gun and just puts it to the side.
Yeah. The reason why he has to go down the pipe is because he discovers that the reactor did get dinged or overheated or something, and it's gonna blow. So they have 4 hours to get off the planet.
Yeah, and so he has to go to a satellite in order to contact and remotely access a ship to get down to where they're at.
Yeah.
Which I'm like, future technology.
And then he gives like the time specs for how long that'll take. I didn't write it down. Did you?
Of what?
Of how long it would take him to do each thing. I kind of vaguely remember.
I heard the 45 minutes to get down the pipe
Okay.
to access the thing, and then after that, I don't remember.
I think he said it would take him about an hour to realign this thing, maybe like a half an hour to get the ship prepped, and then like 20 minutes to fly out. And then Weaver's like, or Ripley, she's like, oh, cutting it close. And he's like, yeah. Like, because it basically gives him like an hour to get off the planet.
So, Ripley gets some hands-on experience with the assault rifle they got going on.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's so good because here's another good flirty scene right here. I love it.
But I mean, I don't have anything during that scene, but after she gets the gun and she starts walking down the hallway, I wrote Ripley looks awesome as she walks down the hallway with the gun.
Oh, okay.
Because like just how she's holding herself looks really cool.
I don't know if this is part of the director's cut because they do show a couple parts where like Hicks is showing her how to use it, right? And
Yep.
and
She doesn't use it, but she's just
like she's just holding it.
Yeah,
He's like hold it in place here.
It's
when
essentially like,
when
oh,
this
you
goes
need
to
help
zero.
golfing?
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
let me
exactly.
get
Like,
behind you and show you how to golf. Like that's pretty much what she's doing.
And my favorite part is when where Ripley goes, well, what's this for? And he's like, oh, that's the grenade launcher. I don't think you want to mess with that. And she's like, hey, you started this.
Oh,
and
yeah,
then she
that's
holds
right.
it back up like a badass, and he's
Yeah.
like, well, okay.
Yeah.
Like, and then he says something too. I think he says something like you're like more than what I expected, or like you're a badass. Or he says something of that nature, like basically being like, you're pretty cool.
Yeah. So Ripley goes back because she's walking with the gun down the hallway to go to sleep for a little bit, pass the time, and she sees that Newt is gone, but she's actually under the bed.
Yeah, yeah.
And then cut back to Bishop. Bishop is he makes it to the satellite. He starts doing his thing over there.
Ripley lays down with Newt and puts the gun on top of the bed.
No, she puts the gun out in the lab, and the door closes.
Oh,
and then she's
well, that might be different then.
No, okay. So because the thing is like she has. So, okay, rewind. She walks into the lab. She has the gun in her hands, and she puts it on the table, and then she goes, and then doors go. She walks into the sleeping area, sees that Newt's gone. Doors close. She looks down, sees Newt. Then she lays down, falls asleep.
Oh, okay.
Because this is important.
That is different.
This is important because what happens next changes the whole aspect of why.
Oh.
Ripley wakes up next to Newt and notices that the face hugger is out of a test tube. She tries to go to the door. The doors don't open.
Right.
And it is soundproof room. And then as she looks through the window, she sees the gun on the table.
Okay, see, so the difference here is, I'm assuming this is a director's cut difference. When she walks into the room, she lays the gun on the bed, because when she wakes up later, she reaches her hand on the bed looking for the gun, looks up, notices the gun is gone. Then when they get to the window, she sees the guns outside.
Oh, okay. So maybe
Yeah.
I missed that part then.
Well, I mean, it could.
I thought that she put the gun down. Maybe she did put the gun down on the bed.
I mean, it could
I
be
might be
different.
remembering it wrong.
They might have. Well, they might have changed it even.
Well,
like, they
no,
might have
'cause
just cut out the whole bed part.
Your thing makes sense because that scene still happens. Her reaching over the bed and grabbing it.
Oh, okay.
Because when we find out who's in charge of this
Right.
whole little fiasco,
Yeah.
that wouldn't be too far out of hand. Because I was wondering, I thought she put the gun inside the room, but then I was like, oh, maybe she didn't, and then I wrote that down. So I might have been remembering that wrong then.
Yeah, because as far as I know, she put it on the bed because, when she reaches up to find it, it's not there.
I thought she was reaching around to find the facehugger.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And then she eventually does find it, and
Yeah.
and it jumps at her. The room is soundproof, and then Ripley remembers to there's a camera.
Yeah.
And then she starts yelling at the monitor, and Burke, being the asshole he is, turns off the monitor. And
because nobody else is paying attention at this point.
Yeah, and then Ripley, because this thing is scattering around the floor now.
Yeah.
Facehugger is rampant, and so Ripley decides like, oh, maybe if I cause an alarm to go off, they'll come over here. So she takes. What does she use to?
She just has a lighter, I think.
Oh, okay. And then she just holds it next to the sprinkler.
Mhm.
The what's in that magnesium? No, mercury. Mercury.
Yeah.
Glass charge bursts. Water starts going. Alarm starts going off, and they're like, "There's a fire!" And then so they start running down, and they find out that like, oh yeah. And at this moment, this is important too. Ripley takes a chair and tries to break the window open, which she can't because it's like it's like bulletproof or something. And then the hugger jumps to Ripley, wraps around her throat, but she caught it in her hand, so it's being subdued in some way, but it's still choking the life out of her.
Yes.
And then Hicks just jumps through the fucking window.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wait a minute, I thought this thing was bulletproof. Shouldn't he just like have slammed against the window?
Because they did shoot at it too, and I don't think the bullets went through. Like,
yeah.
And somehow he ended up getting thugh. Who knows?
The soldier started shooting at it.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And so he busts through it, and for whatever reason that works.
Yeah.
And
one of them sneaks up on Newt, but she manages to like catch it between a table and the wall, and it's
Newt is caught the tail.
Yeah, and so it's like fighting at her, but Hudson jumps in and he ends up blowing that one away and blowing it to pieces or whatever.
Yeah, and then they eventually get the one off of Ripley.
Yeah.
And so the soldier jumps through the window, even though Ripley was hitting it with a chair. And then they find out because Ripley goes, yeah, this was all Burke's idea. Like, he was going to impregnate us with the thing.
Yeah.
So, and then put us in the sleep chamber and then get the thing out and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, they would never know, like, that he snuck a couple of these xenomorphs in.
Yeah, and then Hudson was like, oh, he's dead. You're dog meat, pal. I'm like...
Everybody wants to kill Burke, but I think Ripley's like, we can't kill him. He has to go back. And then, the power gets cut. The xenomorphs got the power.
But Ripley says this line. She goes, I don't know what species is worse.
Oh, right.
You don't see them fucking each other over. And then
for a percentage.
Yeah, for a percentage. And then after that, then the lights go off.
Yeah. And then she's like, they cut the power. And then Hudson's like, what do you mean they cut the power,
They're
man?
animals, man.
It's like, oh, shit. And so the power's out there, and they're all trapped essentially in the same room. They're all like in the medical bay / this other room that Newt was and Ripley were in.
Yeah, and so everyone gets all strapped and ready to roll, and they start blowtorching the door so that it'll be sealed. But then this is one of my favorite parts. This was almost the same thing that was in Predator when that slow pan.
Mm-hmm.
I like this shot where they had everyone looking at the thing, and they're like, 10 meters in, and they're outside the door.
Yeah.
And then they go 6 meters, 5 meters in,
but
and
they're
like
inside the room.
Yeah, that's inside the room. And they're like, I don't know, man. And they're like, you're reading it wrong. He goes, no, they're right here, man. And then all of a sudden they're like looking at each other. And they look at the thing, the beeper, and then they all look at each other, and then they slowly look up.
Yeah.
And then they're like, oh shit.
Yeah.
And then Hicks boops up the ceiling tile, and then all of a sudden you just see these things
Just
scuttering
crawling.
around, and you're like, oh my god.
Yeah, and he falls while firing into the
Yeah,
ceiling.
they're like,
oh
shit, and they just all start shooting. Oh man, that was such a good scene.
In the middle of this firefight, you see Burke escape through a door and shut the door, as they're all fighting or whatever, and then he ends up locking a couple of the doors.
And then we lose my favorite character of this whole damn movie. My second favorite character of this whole movie. Hudson dies at an hour and 40 minutes.
Yeah,
in.
dude, he's blowing. He's like, "You want some? Well, how about you? You
he
want
goes
some
down
too?"
fighting, and then he gets sucked underneath the floor, and I'm like, "Oh no!"
Yeah,
Here
dude,
he goes.
and it was such a. It's like it was sad, but it was such a good death because he was killing a whole bunch of them, and then one just like pops the tile or pops the tile from below him open, pops up, and is just like, "Hey," and then just takes him right back down, like, and then he just dies. You know, he's
I'm like,
gone.
this Burke. If it wasn't for Burke, they would have got out.
Yeah.
And so Burke locks the door or whatever, and then he backs into a doorway, and a very hungry Xenomorph finds him.
Got his comeuppance.
Yep. And then
Yeah. Now at this point, they're trying to escape through some vents.
oh,
because
we
they-
totally missed it. The general's back.
Oh, right. Yeah. Gorman woke up like sometime before Ripley got attacked. I think. Right.
It was just before she was going to lay down with.
Okay.
Newt.
Yeah.
I forgot to write that down.
Yeah. I had wrote it down, but I skipped over it.
So they're all trying to run through these vents because Newt knows where she's going.
Yes.
For some reason, I guess she's been there a while, so she knows where to go. But she's running too damn fast, so everyone's getting separated now.
Yeah.
And
Vasquez is at the end because now she's the last line of defense because she's got like a big gun and she's holding them off.
and so they're crawling through the grate, and yeah, she's like 3 turns away from the other guys.
Yeah.
The general and Hicks are about like a turn and a half away from Ripley and Newt because Newt is running through these things.
Yeah. She's like, this way. Come on, this way.
Yeah,
Go to
and
the
Ripley's
left.
like, calm down. We got to wait. We got to
Newt,
wait for these
wait.
guys. And so then Vasquez starts going down with a fight, and she gets acid on her ankle and starts essentially just chews through her whole foot. And the general goes back to go and try and fight with her. Hicks runs off to go and be with Ripley because he's like, go, move on. I'll catch up. I'll get Vasquez.
Yeah, Gorman's like, oh, yeah, I'll go get her.
Yeah, and well, he went and got her, but then didn't move very much farther where she was at.
Yeah.
And they have a grenade, and they just set that thing off.
Yeah, they get surrounded, like, because what happens is Vasquez is running through the vents, and there's a vent above her, and one falls on her. She manages to, like, push its head against the wall and blow its brains out, but then that acid's what eats through her foot.
Yeah, she takes her boot and pushes it against the wall.
And so then essentially she loses her foot. And then Gorman goes back to get her, but then they're surrounded on all sides. So then Gorman lights a grenade or whatever, and then Vasquez is like, you always were an asshole, Gorman. And then they both blow up and kill a bunch of them. But yeah, they made a sacrifice to help the remainder of the people get away.
Then Newt slips between a crack and slides down a vent into a sewer.
Yep.
And then then I wrote down, is she British or American? The accent slips from there to not there. And it really confused me. And I was like, man, this little girl kind of sucks at acting. And then I looked it up, and this is the only movie she did. So I was like, all right, well, then she did ever go and make this a career, so whatever.
That's funny.
I said Ripley and Loverboy then go on to try and find where she's at, find her, and then try to cut down to her.
Yep.
But hits on the sonar begin.
Yep, and then a Xenomorph does this really cool rise out of the water.
Yeah.
And she turns around and screams, and then
Newt is in the sewer,
yeah.
and then the Xenomorph rises out of the water, yes.
And then Newt turns around, fucking screams her life out, and then Hicks and Ripley are bashing through this grate, and then by the time Ripley gets down there, all that's left is the floating head of Casey.
I wrote, she's gone, and Ripley is broken about it.
Yeah.
Like, she is freaking out. Again, very good acting from Sigourney Weaver here.
Yeah.
They try to use an elevator, and it magically works when a Xenomorph tries to climb in.
Yeah.
Bishop got the ship. And then,
don't forget Hicks gets burned there, too, because he shoots
Oh,
at the
yeah,
Xenomorph.
that's right. They were trying to do this whole thing, and then shoots the Xenomorph to bop it out. It falls back. Acid sprays on his shoulder. Oh, his
it's like
chest
his shoulder
protector.
and his chest.
Yeah, his chest protector. They just get it off in the nick of time, but it does get to him a little bit.
Yeah.
Bishop gets got the a ship. Ripley asks how much time they have left. He says plenty of time. 26 minutes at an hour and 48 minutes in. I don't know why I wrote that down because I think I was trying to figure out if he was going to get it right.
That's what I was thinking too. I was trying to keep track of the time or whatever.
Ripley then loads up for battle as she's going down the elevator. She's getting strapped.
Oh.
She has the flamethrower and the machine gun. But what else you got?
Oh, I was just gonna say at that one part when you were talking about the 26 minutes, she goes, "Good, we're not leaving," and then Bishop goes, "We're not."
Yeah, and then Hicks goes, "Don't," or Ripley goes, "Don't leave without." He's like, "We're not," or something like that. He says, something like,
don't let him leave without us, and he's like, "We're not going anywhere."
Yeah,
like,
and then it cuts back to her running down and trying to get all the ammo she can.
But yeah, she puts together that really cool ass gun, like you're saying. Like she tapes together the pulse rifle and the flamethrower.
She essentially has two guns next to each other, so she's like wrapped around it like a tuba.
She's got a whole fucking sling of grenades wrapped around her shoulders, plus grenades in the pulse rifle, and then she's got I think that's it. But
she's ready to go.
Yeah, she's good.
And then we get to hear a voice. Mother's voice shows back up at an hour and 50 minutes into the movie. And she's counting down just like how she did in the last one. Ripley has gone back to get Newt, and she is strapped for combat with a gun and a flamethrower.
Yeah.
She starts trying to go and use the tracker. She finds Newt's watch tracker, which is in the nest, and she assumes that the worst has happened.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden, Newt wakes up in the nest, and then Egg is sitting right in front of her. She screams at the top of her lungs. Ripley runs in the room and grabs her, and she starts blasting things and whatever.
Yeah.
They run down, and then all of a sudden they slow down.
Yes.
And then you're like, why are they slowing down? And then all of a sudden it starts to pan out, and
cool.
all you see is all these eggs.
Yep.
And then you look over. Then Ripley looks over, and then she sees this noodle thing going,
yeah,
and just like poops out an egg. And you're like, uh-oh. And then they follow it. They go up the noodle. They go around this big, giant body. And they look up, and they see they found the queen.
Yeah, and the queen's so cool because she's, like, tucked up at
this
first.
Queen is a lot cooler than the one in AVP.
Yeah, because this one, like, kind of, like, untucks itself, and then its jaw comes down, and then it just goes...
Yeah.
It just, like, hisses
But
at
did you notice this one seems smarter than the one in AVP?
Yes, incredibly smart.
Because she notices because Ripley gets scared and starts using the flamethrower on the eggs.
Yeah,
but then
because there's a couple xenomorphs come in from either side.
Yeah.
And then she freaks out, blows the flamethrower into the air, and then aims it at an egg, and then the queen's like, oh, like hisses at her, and then looks at each one of the xenomorphs, and they both like back the fuck off.
Yeah, they like fade into black.
Yeah.
And then it allows them to walk away.
Yeah.
They don't attack her because Ripley started to torch the eggs.
Oh, well, did you notice though that so as she's walking away, one of the eggs opens?
Yes, I have that next.
Oh, okay.
I have that next,
okay.
yeah. But you can say it. You go ahead.
Oh, well, yeah, essentially then Ripley like looks at the queen with this kind of look like you were gonna fucking kill me.
Yeah.
Because at first she thought the queen was gonna let her go, and then this egg opens, and then she's just like, and then she fucking torches everything.
So see, my thing is now does that confirm that the queen can control the eggs?
I'm not really sure. I think maybe the queen doesn't necessarily control them like mentally, but I think maybe like she can put off some kind of pheromone or something when she's in danger, or maybe when she's aggressive or something, like, because that's how, because she looked at both those xenomorphs and made them back off, just by looking at them. So she must put off some kind of vibe or pheromone or something to make them want to do that, I guess.
Sigourney or Ripley decides to not give two fucks, and she just blows grenades through the queen.
Yeah.
Through the egg sack part of her. And you start seeing what looks to be egg yolks just floating out of herself.
Yeah, it's
I'm
like
ew,
before they're in shells or whatever. Yeah, it was really weird.
We see the queen breach away from the egg tube, which we didn't see in AVP. We just saw her; she was just outside now. But in this one, we actually get a confirmation on how she breaks off.
Yeah.
She can just do that. She like snaps off like a
Yeah, they
like a
didn't.
noodle.
They didn't show it in in AVP. They just showed like when they were freeing her, but it didn't. I don't think they showed her breaking away from that.
Yeah, because in AVP she's chained up, so it's a
Mhm.
little different. But in this one, she's obviously not chained up, so she can just snap off of the egg pouch part and just start going. 4 minutes at 2 hours and 1 minute. So there's 4 minutes left in the timer of when this place is going to explode.
Yes.
It goes 4 minutes to reach a safe distance.
Yeah.
And then the queen finds Ripley waiting in for the elevator.
And I like the way she pokes her nose around the corner
Yeah,
because
she's like
yeah, like 'cause her
looking-
head's facing one way and then her jaw turns like at a 90-degree
love
angle.
practical effects
Yeah.
because it obviously was probably not meant to look like that, but
Yeah.
it did it anyway. The queen. Oh yeah, so Ripley gets in the elevator. They start going up because they
Mhm.
get in just in time, and then the queen hears a ding, and
Yeah.
then she looks over, and then she sees one opening up, and I'm like, I go, the queen uses the elevator, and I'm like, and so they go up, and Ripley finds that Bishop took the ship
Yeah.
and left.
Bishop, god damn it.
and then Bishop comes back right as the queen shows up,
Yep.
and that's about. And so the explosion pushes. So Ripley and Newt get in the ship.
Mm-hmm.
The flame pushes it. It crashes into debris of some sort.
Yep.
The landing stuff starts to pick it up, and then they start escaping. They escape as the base explodes, so they land on the main ship that they came on.
Yeah, and it was like a nuclear reaction, like a big explosion.
Yeah, you
so
saw from
those aliens.
space,
Yeah,
so-
those aliens are dead on the planet.
Every last one of them are gone. We know of. And so I wrote Loverboy is unconscious in his seat because
Yep.
Bishop gave him a pain shot.
Yep.
Knocked him out. And then all of a sudden, 2 hours and 6 minutes in, we get Milk Blood.
Yeah, because I put they were home free, or so they thought. Because
Yeah.
Bishop's standing in front of one of the landing gear, and he's talking about how Ripley, like, oh, we're safe or whatever. And then Ripley's like, Bishop, you did a really good job. You know that? And he's like, oh, thanks. And then all of a sudden, right through his chest.
Yeah, you're like, Jesus
Yeah,
Christ,
dude.
what is
and
that?
For being an android, it's a pretty gruesome death.
Oh, yeah,
because-
he gets ripped in half.
Dude, yeah, the queen's tail impales him from behind and rips through his chest. She picks him up with the tail and then just cuts him in half and then just throws both halves like in two different directions. It's so fucking like android gory. Like I don't even really know how to describe it.
So Ripley tells Newt to go hide.
Yep.
Ripley then runs away to try and lead the queen away, but doesn't work. So Ripley literally just entered a room by herself.
Yeah.
At this point, Newt is under the crates, and the queen finds her for whatever reason. She has some fixation over Newt for some reason.
Yeah.
Ripley is back, but she's in the Avatar mech.
So cool.
And then she says at 2 hours and 8 minutes, what does she say?
Get away from her, you bitch.
Which is one of the most famous lines from this movie.
So good. And if you've ever played, you played Conquer Live and Reloaded, so at least you know of the line because at the end of that game, they do this whole scene. Like, have you ever gotten to the end of the
Not
game?
that, no.
Oh, okay. So if you've ever played Conquer 64 or Conquer's Bad Fur Day, as it's called, and then Conquer Live and Reloaded for Xbox, which was a remake of it, the ending boss battle is a Xenomorph, and you're in one of those things, and the whole scene plays out just like this one,
Oh,
where
nice.
there's an airlock, and then Conquer runs into this
When
room.
did Conker's Bad Fur Day come out? 96?
Uh,
97?
it was right before Rare left Nintendo, so yeah, I think it was 97. Because I think they left in 98 or 99. It was one
I'll
of the
look it up.
last games that they made for Rare. Or for Nintendo, I mean. But, yeah, so Conker ends up getting into the loader or whatever, and then he comes out and he's like, get away from her, you bitch, because the alien's trying to eat his girlfriend or whatever. So, yeah, it's pretty funny because they play this scene, like, spot on.
2001.
Really?
Conker's Bad Fur Day.
Wow, I didn't realize it was that late. I thought it was, yeah, I thought it was in the
kind of
90s.
makes sense.
But yeah, because I know Diddy Kong Racing came out before Conker's Bad Fur Day, because that's where Conker was introduced. That was the first game he was in.
Yeah. Wait, what did you say? I'm sorry.
That Diddy Kong Racing came out
Yes,
before
yes. Okay,
Conquer,
yeah.
because that was the first game Conquer was featured in.
Conquer.
Yeah, and then he went on
Totally
to be
different voice, totally different thing.
yeah, and then he was in a Game Boy game, and then they were
I
like,
am the great mighty Pooh.
but yeah, they do that like it's not
Dude,
scene
I think
for
we gotta
scene,
play. I think we gotta play Conker's Bad for a day sometime soon.
oh, we should. I have it.
Yeah, maybe we gotta bring back the Nintendo 64.
Yeah, man. I'll do
There you
something
go. There's a little
for you.
hint for you guys. If
Yeah.
you want it back, hit the
That's
comment section below.
BTS right there.
Okay,
Um,
so
Yeah. So essentially, they fight. Ripley's in this loader, and they're basically doing hand-to-hand combat. And if I have any gripe about the movie, this would be the only thing that I think I could gripe about is just the cuts in this scene because it's a little back and forth, and you don't really know what's going on because it's cutting back from Ripley's face to the alien's face.
yeah,
and it's
it
not-
just looks like they're just moving around each
Yeah,
other, and
it-
you're kind of like, I don't know what's being accomplished.
And
here.
I can understand because it's all practical effects. Like Ripley's really in this loader thing, which if I remember correctly, when I watched like a behind the scenes thing about this movie, it took like 12 guys to move this thing, like a couple people per leg, a couple people per arm, some people to do this and that, and then same with the alien queen because it takes like 5 people to move her. There's like one person inside, a couple people moving the legs and whatnot, and so it's just. The scene is a little edited just a little bit weird with the cuts. You can tell they're fighting, but you can't really make out what's going on until it zooms out again when Ripley essentially opens the airlock from the remote control pad on her loader, and then she picks up the queen by the throat, moves her over the loader, and then tries to drop her, but the queen ends up grabbing the loader and pulling her down with her.
down the airlock.
Or down into the airlock, yeah. And then, but the outside door of the airlock is not open yet. It's just the inside door. Yeah, and so they end up falling down there. And then this here again just proves how super badass Ripley is because Ripley is like, okay, fuck it. She crawls out of the thing. The alien grabs her by the foot. She's like, I don't care. Fucking opens the airlock. The loader goes flying out. The alien's hanging on to Ripley's foot. What does Ripley do? She just puts her elbow on the ladder and just goes, ah! while Bishop is fucking flying. And Bishop like almost goes out the door, but he grabs
because
onto a grate.
he's still alive because he's a robot, and so
Yeah.
he's just gliding across the top of it, and then he hooks onto a thing,
Yeah.
and then Newt's getting sucked in, and then he grabs Newt,
Yes.
and then now that situation's done,
Yeah.
and then we're back to Ripley dealing with that situation.
Yeah, and then Ripley ends up basically the alien just ends up letting go because she can't hold on any longer, and the queen gets sucked out into space screaming bloody murder.
Yeah, and then when Ripley gets back up, she closes the thing, the airlock, obviously.
and she climbs out of the airlock while it's still open.
Yeah.
Space is sucking her out of the airlock. She's just climbing up a ladder like it ain't no thing.
Yeah,
It's
she
fucking
closes the thing,
badass.
but then I noticed Newt calls Ripley mommy.
Oh, yeah, yeah. And then that was like,
And then Bishop says,
Yeah.
"Not bad for a human,"
yeah.
in his gurgly, robotic, dead voice.
Yep. Yep.
So
and
then,
yeah.
yeah, go ahead. You can,
Oh,
you
I was
wrap
just
this
gonna
one
say,
up.
yeah. Essentially, they basically, they killed the alien queen, and then it cuts to Bishop, kind of in a plastic bag, Hicks, and yeah, Hicks wrapped up in a bunch of gauze, and they're both in stasis pods, going to sleep. Yeah, it's like that's kind of sucks for
Classic, man.
Bishop. They just stick him in
Well,
like.
they can't
but-
build him there.
Yeah, I
they
guess
gotta take him down.
Yeah, they probably just didn't want to get noodle and milk blood all over
Yeah.
everything. And then essentially Ripley's gonna go put Newt to sleep, and she's like, "Can I dream now?" And then Ripley's like, "Yeah, I think we both can." And then they end up basically it cuts to them being asleep in the chamber pods, and then Finn credits.
Yep, we get the nice fade. We don't get fade to space like the first movie ended, but we get fade.
Yeah,
And that's the end of that. So we saved you guys 40 minutes.
yeah, if not more so.
Yeah, because it almost didn't seem like there was much cut.
Yeah, I think it was mostly. I think it was like a lot of like couple minute scenes here and there that
Oh,
weren't
okay,
really
they just
like.
eventually added up to a
Yeah,
half an hour.
and I think the most footage that got cut was all that stuff at the beginning with her and her daughter, or talking about her daughter, the scene with Newt talking about her daughter, and then the stuff with Newt and the family. Because I want to say the reason why the original editors cut out the stuff with Newt was because they didn't want to give away that idea of the character, because they were like, oh, if you find a girl on a planet overrun by aliens all of a sudden, that'd be so much cooler than knowing that she was here before. And then I think they cut out the daughter stuff because I think the same reason why in the first one I don't think she ever mentions her daughter
No,
in the
she doesn't
first one.
mention that she has any family or
Yeah,
anything.
and so I think they ended up just cutting that out for continuity's sake, more so, or either that or time constraints, one of the two. But yeah, and then you come to find out about the daughter later on when they came out with Alien Isolation, and it's like, oh yeah, that's right. But
So now we head over to the IMDb corner, where we go through some cool trivia and other fun stuff. Uh, are you want to do trivia today, or you want me to go first?
you can do trivia.
Okie dokie. So let's go through trivia here. Somewhere down here. There we go. What are we sorting by?
Hold on one second. I just gotta.
Do we want to sort by spoilers,
Uh,
interesting, or total votes?
let's do interesting.
Interesting going down or interesting going up?
Oh,
I'm assuming going down.
going down. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the one I got.
Okay. How many are we doing?
I mean, we could do probably 5.
Doing
Mm.
5. 5
Yeah.
are on the docket. Lance Hendrickson had privately pledged to quit acting if this part didn't work out for him after years of journeyman roles. It proved to be one of the most successful films. So there you go. There you go. Number 2, like most films, the movie wasn't shot in sequence, but for added realism, James Cameron filmed the scene where we first meet the Colonial Marines, one of the earliest scenes, last. This was so that what is that?
Sorry, I sorted mine by interesting, but mine's not the same as yours.
Oh, here, read that. Read that one.
Which one?
The one that's on the top.
Oh, camaraderie. Is that the one we were?
Yeah, just go ahead. Yeah.
Oh, this was so that the camaraderie of the Marines was realistic because the actors had spent months filming together.
That makes sense.
Oh, okay.
So in order for them to dive into the roles, they could have that. That's why those they probably float a little bit better, because just like those Marines, they knew each other enough, because we get the assumption that those Marines know each other before this mission,
Mhm.
like they've worked with each other. So that, because James Cameron did that, that allowed us to get that same vibe, and it actually was real. It was truly real,
Yeah.
that they actually were knowing of each other. That's pretty cool. That's a smart idea.
Yeah, like it. I think it gave the movie like a good feel. Like they felt like they were, comrades or whatever. And it's really funny too, because even though like, other than those brief little couple parts where you see their names, you don't really ever hear their names too much, except for when they're screaming, getting killed in the beginning.
Yeah.
And even then, it's like even some of those characters that you don't necessarily get to know too well, like Frost, for example. It's you still get enough lines from him.
Spunkmeyer.
Yeah, you still get enough lines from them to be like, oh, okay, I kind of get this character. You
Yeah.
know.
Number 3, when filming the scene with Newt in the duct, Claire Hen, I think that's how you pronounce her name, or Carrie Hen, kept deliberately blowing her scene so she could slide down the vent, which she later called a slide 3 stories tall. James Cameron fully disalluded her. What does that say?
Dissuaded.
Oh, what is it?
Like.
Oh, like persuade,
Yes.
unpersuading her.
Yes.
By saying that if she completed the shot, she could play on it as much as she wanted. She did, and he kept his promise. That's kind of funny. So the actress that played Newt, she kept blowing her scene so that she could slide down the thing. Yeah.
That's funny. So she's doing it on purpose.
Yeah. And then James Cameron said, "Well, if you do this, then cool." Number 4, the knife trick scene was not in the original shooting script. According to Lance Hendrickson, the adding of Hudson's hand to the knife trick was discussed with almost everyone except Bill Paxton.
Oh, no wonder why he was freaking out.
Oh man. Oh yeah, and then we totally did. We didn't say, but when he goes over there, when Bishop comes back and he sits at the table, he's bleeding a little bit, and they go, "Bishop, I thought you never miss." Did you remember that?
Yeah, and then
Yeah.
he was bleeding. He was bleeding from his finger, the
Yeah.
little milk blood. Yeah, because that's how Ripley realized he was an android in the first
Yeah.
place.
Number 5. In both the standard and special edition versions, the 15-minute countdown at the end of the film is indeed 15 minutes. I
Oh,
figured that. I was like,
wow.
man, because I kept looking at the time. I'm like, man, this looks
So it really is?
this almost looks like it's about to end on the same exact time frame.
That's
and
cool.
it does. Yeah, so there
Props
you go.
to you, James Cameron.
He did that a lot. There was a lot of stuff that he did that for. I'm going to use this one because Bill Paxton's in this one.
Oh, okay, yeah,
Special trivia! According to Bill Paxton, he improvised many of his lines,
Nice.
including "Game over, man!
Yeah.
Game over!" I'm going to give that a thumbs up.
So good.
Oh man. Oh, Sigourney Weaver had several notes for James Cameron after having read the script. However, Cameron praised her for never taking issue with the direction he wanted to take with his story. Her notes were all about how she felt Ripley should respond to her situations, which he would happy to accommodate. See, it seemed like this team worked really well together,
Yeah.
which is why Sigourney Weaver shows back up in Avatar.
Oh, I see. Yeah, because I guess a few of these people, like, they probably worked together, before, on other movies and stuff.
Is there
too.
another Sigourney Weaver Bill Paxton movie? I don't remember them together in any other movie. Can't really think of one. Anyway,
Yeah, no,
so you got 2 bonus facts. 2 bonus trivia. All right, we're moving on to our loot box. Josh, what are we going to do today?
Let's do goofs.
Goofs it is.
Yeah, I like that. I like goofs. Those are pretty.
What are we
funny.
sorting by?
And let's go by interesting.
Interesting.
Pointing down.
Pointing down.
Yeah.
Refine. There we go. I don't think I clicked refine on that last one. So anyway, how many are we doing?
These are pretty short. Let's do 5 of these.
5 are on the docket. Number 1.
Oh, am I reading them?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Okay, so number 1, at around 21 minutes, when Bishop is doing the thing with the knife, the scene is sped up to give the impression that Bishop is lightning fast. Apone can be seen rocking his head back and forth, also at a ridiculous speed.
Oh, now I want to see it.
I didn't notice
now
that.
I want to see that again.
I'm gonna go home and watch that later.
Number 2.
Okay, so it looks like it. Wait, is this repeating the same one? I think it's the same one, so I'll just skip. Okay, so the next one. There are several instances in the film of someone shooting an alien at point-blank range, yet not getting any of their acidic blood on them, which is true. I did notice that there were a couple times that, like, Hicks shot one with a shotgun and he didn't get splashed.
Yeah.
And then, well, actually Hudson got splashed in that scene, so never mind. And then, but there were a handful of times when, they were doing that. But I guess, the action's so crazy that you don't really notice.
Number 3.
The inquest had gone on for 3.5 hours, yet no one mentioned that LV-426 had been colonized for over 20 years. If the review board did not believe Ripley's story, it seems unlikely that they wouldn't have mentioned the colony on LV-246 much sooner. Which, they don't mention that until she's like, basically like, check out the planet. They should have said something about that in the beginning. But it is kind of coincidental that they lose contact with the planet right after she comes back, like from sleep. They've been there for 20 years and they never run into the aliens.
Number 4.
Gorman states that the M418 pulse rifle fires 10mm explosive tip caseless ammunition. Several times throughout the film, you can clearly see casings leaving the ejection port of the pulse rifles. Stupid Gorman.
And number 5.
When the dropship is released, it is shown to be falling immediately as if full gravity. I noticed this. However, since the Sulaco is placed on the stationary orbit, the dropship should remain in place until releasing the clamps. An additional burn would be necessary to initiate deorbiting, which it was kind of funny. When they dropped out of the ship, it looked like they were falling out of a ship on Earth, but they were clearly in space, so it shouldn't have worked that way.
Yeah.
But, again, technicalities. That was it, right?
Oh my gosh. Okay, do you see that next one? Bonus goof.
Here, let me see if I can.
That one's pretty weird. You can read this one.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. The one with the
one on top.
At around 1 hour and 55 minutes. When Ripley turns to find herself in the Queen's chamber, Newt's hand is rigid because she is holding a lightweight Newt dummy. What?
She's holding a fake. She's not holding Newt. She's just holding a dummy.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, weird.
Yeah, I didn't notice that either. There's a lot more goofs. Go check it out. There's 110 of them.
Wow.
So. All right, on to the next one. Oh, taglines.
Yeah, this
Taglines.
is your favorite
My
part.
favorite part of the whole entire thing. Here we go. Taglines.
Oh,
We have 1, 2, 3, 4,
yeah, it's
5 on
all
the
about the
docket here.
fives on this
Yeah,
episode,
here we
huh?
go. Well, we done bonus ones too.
Oh yeah.
Number 1, aliens. This time, there's more. Oh boy, that one's not great. Number 2, this time, it's war. Number 3, there are some places in the universe you don't go alone. Number 4, somewhere in the deepest space, as hell is breaking loose. Wait, somewhere in deepest space, all hell is breaking loose. There you go. And number 5, they're even scarier the second time around, and that was on the Fox VHS cover.
God, that one's terrible. You know, I do kind of like the third one. There are some places in the universe you don't go alone. That one I kind of like.
Now we go on to release date. Go ahead and give us the details on these guys.
All right. So release date was July 18th, 1986. That was close to 2 years after I was born, just a few days before.
Apparently, it was released in Westwood, California on July 14th, so that must have been the premiere.
I didn't. Oh, yeah, I didn't actually click the.
No,
thing
it's
there.
fine. It's fine.
Oh, okay, yeah. So I guess that was the premiere.
I'm assuming
Yeah,
that's the.
that was
that's
probably the
premiere.
very first showing, and then in Canada, the United States, it was nationwide. the
Australia
18th.
got this one a little bit later.
Australia.
Oh wait, that's re-release. Ukraine got this the latest, March 25th, 1994. Dang, that's almost.
Wow.
That's almost 2 decades.
Damn. Yeah, and then they re-released because then they did another one in Canada in 2011.
Digital Film Festival.
Yeah, and then they re-released it in several other, including the U.S. So I guess that maybe they were re-releasing the special edition. Is probably what that was.
Mm-hmm. All right, our next one is box office. Let's take a look at the box office here. We have a budget estimated of $18,500,000 estimated. Opening weekend. Let's see here. Opening weekend in the United States grossed $10,052,042 opening weekend, which
That's not bad.
I think that was the most of all of the movies that we've seen.
I think so. Yeah.
That's opening weekend.
Yeah.
Just that they've already almost made their budget.
That's pretty. Yeah, and that's pretty good.
Crazy. That's Avengers numbers.
Yeah.
Of percentage wise, not like actual numbers.
Yeah, that's like half their budget.
And then it grossed worldwide $131,060,248.
That's crazy.
Yep, definitely got a hit on our hands.
Yeah.
Next one is tech specs. What do we got, Josh?
All right. So runtime. So the normal standard theatrical version, 2 hours 17 minutes, 137 minutes. The U.S. special edition is 2 hours and 34 minutes, 154 minutes. So not too much, 17 minutes difference there. That's not too bad. So that makes sense why it seemed like there wasn't that much added to the director's cut. Sound mix 70 millimeter 6-track, 70 millimeter prints. Dolby stereo is 35 millimeter prints. Aspect ratio 1.85 by 1. Nice, cool camera names.
Yeah, here's your camera.
Aeroflex 35 LII Canon K35 lenses and MovieKam Super America.
Nice.
Canon K35 lenses. They always have the weirdest names for those. Let's see here. Negative formats, 35 millimeters. Eastman.
Pretty standard.
Yeah, I don't know what this is. Eastman 400T 5294.
I think that's the camera type.
Oh,
I mean
okay.
the film type.
Oh,
But 35
gotcha.
millimeters is usually what
Yeah.
that's what Star Wars is shot on.
Yeah.
Usually that arrow is 35 millimeter film.
Yeah, pretty straightforward. Printed film format was 35 millimeter on the Eastman, and then 70 millimeter blow up Eastman 5384. So.
All right, we head on down to now we rank it.
All right.
Time to give the review here.
I'll let you go first on this one.
I think I went first the last.
Oh, you
time.
did?
Yeah.
Oh, I can't remember. Okay, I can go first. Okay, so I don't know if I'm biased. I don't know if it's nostalgia. I'm pretty sure this is the very first Alien movie that I saw. I even saw this one before the first one. I know that for sure. I don't remember if I saw this before Alien 3 because Alien 3 came out when I was a little bit older. This one came out when I was 2, but I'm pretty sure I saw this one first. because I remember being so fond of this movie when I was a kid and loving it, and then I remember seeing the first one being kind of disappointed at the fact that there wasn't as much action. It was more like thriller and horror movie. This one is straightforward sci-fi action. After like the first hour, it just gets into it and it does not stop. It is a roller coaster ride of crazy thrills and funny lines. The pacing's perfect. Sigourney Weaver as Ripley will always be a badass, no matter what. And just the mere fact that, other than like a couple minor things like the goofs that we were talking about, or the fact that like the cut in that one scene wasn't like right on, I can find no faults with this movie. And for me, this one's a perfect 10.
Oh wow, wow, a 10.
Yep.
Okie dokie.
I enjoy this movie so much. I love it. As I was watching it, taking notes, I was doing like kind of how you were saying, where I would stop taking notes and I would just start watching. And I was like, oh, wait, yeah, I got to keep taking notes. Shit. Like, and I kept having to pause it and rewind it because I kept getting caught up in the movie. And then I would have to rewatch to write the notes down. I did that like 7, 8, 9 times. Like, I can't even remember like how many times I just stopped taking notes because I was enjoying the film so much. It's perfect. Probably one of the best sequels.
Yeah. So as I'm watching this, I've never seen this movie, and so as I was watching it, I'm like, I loved Bill Paxton's character. I love the banter that he had with Apom, and then and now with like the trivia fact of like that was like the last scene they shot, makes total sense, and I think it was a total smart move on Cameron's part. I think this is honestly one of Cameron's best films, if not is his best film of all time. Fuck Avatar. Titanic is a pretty good, close second.
I would say the only one that I could compare is probably Terminator 2, maybe.
Terminator 2 is pretty good too. Titanic's pretty good though too.
Well, Titanic's a good movie, yeah, but I mean, for like, I just mean like for me personally.
I'd probably go Aliens, Terminator 2, Titanic, and then somewhere way at the bottom is not way at the bottom. Probably top 5. I would give Avatar.
Yeah, Avatar would probably be number 5.
It's not good. It's not. I would have to watch it again.
Nothing of this quality.
But anyway, this is definitely peak Cameron here, and yeah, it's so good and fun, and it's enjoyable, and I think that like the negatives of it are very few and almost non-existent. I think that the little girl, I thought Newt was kind of not good at acting, but because Sigourney Weaver is so top-notch, she's able to hold the scene.
Yes.
And I'm actually talking myself out of what I was giving it. And I think that based on Paxton's character, based on Hicks, based on everyone found their niche of what their character was, and they kept being that character throughout the whole film. There were some time jumps that were a little rough in the beginning, but it was really thought through at the end, though, because like we saw, 15 minutes means 15 minutes. They got 15 minutes to leave. And so it's almost like little to none, and when they are, there's so many things that outweigh it. And you know what? I think I'm going to do it. I'm going to give it a solid 10.
Nice.
I was going to give it a 9. But I think I had so much fun recounting all of these that it made me think of Predator, which I believe I gave an 8, but I feel like I really enjoyed that film, though. There were quotable lines in Predator. There were quotable lines, but the lines just kept coming in this movie that made it fun throughout the whole movie. It wasn't boring. There was never a moment that you felt like, oh, man, it's dragging on forever. I think if you don't have – I honestly think – and I was having this conversation before with somebody else was I think this movie can honestly hold its own. Where you didn't even need to see the first movie because it all gets explained right there and then. And then half the damn stuff that she starts talking about if you watch the director's cut was never explained. You get more information in this movie than you did in the first one.
Right, yeah. And that's why I think like that's why I'm saying I don't know if I'm biased because when I first saw this movie, I didn't even know there was a first one. Like I thought this was the first movie, and then somebody was like, "No, this is a sequel," and I was like, "What?" Like, and then I go and watch the first one, and it was totally different. Like, not nearly as memorable. Memorable, sure, but not nearly as memorable. Like this movie, I mean, they use quotes from this movie in other media. They use scenes from this movie in other media. Like and this is like you were saying, Cameron at his best. Like I can't, other than for me personally.
By the way, he did write some of this too. It
Yeah,
said
yeah.
screenplay
hmm
by James Cameron.
Yeah, he helped with the script. He directed it, and I'm pretty sure he like
So directed by James Cameron. Writers are James Cameron, David Giller, which helped write Aliens and Alien Resurrection, and he wrote AVP and Alien Covenant.
oh wow.
Walter Hill, who wrote 48 Hours, which is another good movie. Streets of Fire, The Warriors.
Oh, okay. Yeah, The Warriors is a good flick.
Dan O'Brien, who wrote Dark Star, Total Recall, the
Oh,
2012
wow.
one.
Never
He
mind.
also helped write Alien Isolation.
Oh, okay.
He's been on pretty much all the projects of the Alien movies. He actually helped write a lot of the video games that were based on AVP. Ronald Schuett, who helped write Aliens, Total Recall, the original, and came back and helped the other guy write the 2012 Total Recall,
Mm.
and Alien Covenant. So yeah, like those are 6 people that really did well on writing.
Yeah.
It's just, I look at this and the cast is only 34 people.
See, and that's another thing too. Like, I mean, I'm sure we've already said it, but the cast in this movie is so fucking good. Like, they have such good actors in this movie, like Sigourney Weaver, Michael Biehn. I think Al Simmons is the name of the guy who plays Apone. Bill Paxton, Lance Hendrickson. It's like, dude, like you've got yourself an A.
Al Matthews, is that what you
Oh,
said?
Al Matthews. I thought it was
the
Al.
one that played Sergeant Apone.
Oh, okay. I thought it was Al Simmons. Oh no, Al Simmons is who's Al Simmons? He's from a video game
I don't know.
or something, or maybe he's like a Batman character or something
Dude,
like
the
that.
guy who plays Private Frost, his real name is Rico Ross.
Whoa, huh? It's funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, like just the characters in this movie just mesh so well. The girl who plays Vasquez also does a great job throughout the movie, even though she's like a tough chick. She plays that role so perfectly that like I don't feel like she was
She's
like
in Terminator 2, by the way.
what is she playing? Oh,
She's
she's in the
Janelle Vionite.
she's in one of the future scenes. Like there's a scene where they're driving around on like a truck or something, and I think she's in that scene.
She is also in Real Heroes, Firefighter on the Nintendo Wii. Just so you know.
Yeah.
Anyway,
But either way, this movie to me could not be more perfect. And I will never not love this movie. I love Predator, but I had a feeling this was going to happen when we were getting up to. I just knew.
like I said, I was gonna give it a 9, but I started thinking about it and then started realizing, like when we were going through the walkthrough, that I enjoyed the movie so much of like the lines,
Yeah.
and I could remember some of them even though I didn't write them down. And I
Yeah.
was like, yeah, this is definitely either an amazing film or it's groundbreaking. And I think it's definitely groundbreaking. It definitely sets the bar for Sigourney Weaver.
Yeah.
I think this movie actually probably helped her way more than the first Aliens movie.
Oh, for sure.
The first Alien movie.
I think this movie catapulted her into like stardom.
Well,
like,
that's the first 10 we've ever given to
so-
anything.
Yeah. Yeah.
So of anything
And that's a
we've ever
solid
done.
10 because both of us gave
Yeah,
it
that's
10.
a solid
so.
10. So why don't you run us
So-
down here?
It looks like we have a new campeon so far.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to
So-
change these out here.
So it looks like our brand new number 1 taking the first spot after 9 movies. Only took us 9 weeks to get here, but we have finally made it. Aliens has taken the first spot at a solid 10, dethroning Predator for the first time this season.
Yeah, 9 weeks winner.
That is
and
crazy to
Down.
me.
Yep, took 10.
So Predator now moves to second place. Still a great movie, but it's just no aliens. At an 8.5. Then we've got Alien at number 3 at a solid 8. Predators coming in at number 4 with a solid 7. Predator 2 following that up at number 5 with 6.5. And then we've got Prometheus coming in behind that with a solid 6. That's tied for 7th place with Alien Covenant at also a solid 6. Both of those are about the same. And then number 8 is AVP at 5 points, solid 5. And then number 9 is The Predator, which was the most recent Predator movie in 2017 or 2018. That's 4.5. And then trailing up at number 10 is AVP Requiem, and that's at 3.5.
Yep. Alrighty, man. Just so you guys know, a 10 is a groundbreaking item, whatever it is. A 9 to 9.9 is a must-have. An 8 to 8.9 is marvelous. A 7 to 7.9 is worthy. A 6 to 6.9 is a borrow. A 5 to 5.9 is meh. A 4 to 4.9 is mediocre. A 3 to 3.9 is a terrible film or game. A 2 to 2.9 is horrific. 1 to 1.9 is unplayable. And a 0 to 0.9 is trash. I've never given anything below a 1, so...
Yeah, I think it would have to be exceptionally bad to be like...
I mean, there are films that are that bad.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen like maybe 1 or 2 where I've had to even turn them off and not even finish them because they're so bad.
Yeah. But I mean, that's it. That's it. We've done it. We've officially got a 10.
Yeah.
I wonder if we'll ever hand out another 10 anytime soon.
Yeah, I was going to say, as far as this series goes, I have a feeling Aliens is going to remain at number 1 because the next 2...
This season.
Or this season, yeah. So, like... Yeah, the next 2 are good, but I don't think they're an Alien. They're no.
Yeah, well, in order for something to get a 10, 2 of us have to agree on it.
That's true. Yeah, so we would have to both think Alien 3 is like superb beyond belief, and I mean Aliens has been voted as one of the greatest sequels of all time.
Yeah,
because like you were saying, there's like. I guess there's Terminator 2, there's Aliens, and then there's Godfather 2 is considered one of the best sequels, and there's like a couple other movies that are considered like really good sequels. But yeah, I don't think
a lot of people like Back to the Future too.
Oh yeah, that was one of them. Rescuers Down Under. That's another one.
Sure, we'll throw that one in there. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, thank you guys so much for listening. You do have homework still. We are not done yet. We got 2 more movies on the docket.
Yep.
What is the homework of next week?
All right, so we are continuing on with our Aliens universe, and we are going to move on to Alien 3, and that will be our second to last movie, our penultimate, if you will, on this season of MovieKombat.
Yeah, so apparently, just so you guys know on the timeline, because remember, we're going through this chronologically.
Right.
Aliens took place in 2079.
Yes.
And Aliens 3 takes place in 2079, but 3 days later.
Yes.
Now, I don't know what that means because I haven't seen this film yet either.
Yeah, it'll explain it real quick.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, it gets explained very quickly in the beginning of the movie.
Seems like they're popping these things right after another of timeline base here.
Yeah.
Even though this one definitely did take place.
It picked
decades
up
later.
It picked up where the movie left off, but like it fails to tell you that it's 57 years later until like 30 minutes in. It's like, oh, hey, by the way, this amount of time passed.
Yeah.
It's like, what?
So anyway, ladies and gentlemen, thank you guys so much for watching. If you have any comments or questions or suggestions for new seasons that we might, if you guys like this show, please let us know that you like this show because it's going to allow us to go, okay, let's keep making MovieKombat.
Yeah. Let us know about format changes if you think it's too long.
Yeah, if you guys want it shorter, things like that.
Drop the trivia or the extras or anything like that if you think that's useless information. I personally would not like to do that.
Yeah.
I like the trivia and stuff.
Because we are recording all of Season 1 of MovieKombat. This is a little inside baseball, so if you guys... I'll quickly do the full-on outro, and then if you guys want to stick around, we'll do that. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you guys so much for listening. If you guys want to listen to more, make sure you hit the subscribe button wherever you are listening to this, whether that be on iTunes, whether that be on Podbean, whether that be on Google Podcasts, or wherever you're listening to this. Hit subscribe so you guys get that RSS feed onto your mobile devices. If you are more of a YouTube connoisseur, make sure you hit that subscribe button so that you guys get all of the videos. Tap the bell button, get notified when videos get uploaded, and links in the description below on all formats of where all of our social medias are at. But yeah, little inside baseball now. We're really trying. We've recorded this season ahead of time, and because we wanted to get this season done and ready to go so that it all can release weekly. We have already watched all these films. By the time you're hearing these, it's probably been at least about 2.5 months.
Yeah, probably at this
So
point.
if you guys really do like the show, please definitely show your support by hitting the like button over on YouTube and letting us know. Or you can go and put the comment section and review on wherever platform you're listening to. We see the iTunes stuff, we see the Podbean stuff. So if you guys are commenting there, we will see that. You can tweet at us of like, "Hey guys, I loved #MovieKombat. Really want more." Just by you guys letting us know, lets us know that we should keep making it and come back for like a season 3 or whatnot.
Yeah,
But
and we'll
go
keep
ahead.
coming up with different ideas and stuff.
Oh,
and,
we've got plenty of
so,
ideas.
Yeah.
We have definitely kept going at it and tried to keep this it's just kept spinning of like. And then when we keep talking to other people, they're like, "Oh yeah, you guys should do this topic," and we're like, "Oh yeah, there's another one. Add it to the list."
Yeah, I think we've got an idea for like 20 different seasons at this point.
Yeah, so we are not shy of seasons, and who knows, maybe you guys will suggest one in the comment section,
True.
and we'll be like, "Oh yeah, maybe let's do that one."
Yep.
So don't hesitate to do that, and we love the feedback from you guys, and I hope you guys are really enjoying the show. Because I'm enjoying doing it.
Yeah,
We're
yeah.
getting to watch some movies that I didn't even own before.
See, and I think that's too, like, I think that's also a cool thing is the fact that, like, even if it's movies we've seen before or movies that we haven't seen before, this is all like kind of reinvigorating that experience. This is kind of what it was like when you did old things like talking around the water cooler. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like, it's kind of a nice experience where it's like, oh, we can shoot the shit about a fun movie. And so it's really cool if like everybody's on board with that and they're suggesting us movies in the comments and things. And like, if you guys love these movies as much as we do, we would love to watch more movies that you guys like as well. So that way we can, kind of bring you full circle into the whole thing.
Yeah, we want this to be a very communicative situation because, the best way that we describe it to people that don't know what we're doing is it's a movie book club, essentially.
Yeah.
Like you guys are watching the movies with us, and we sit down, we discuss it, and then you guys in the comment section below will discuss it too. We read those comments, so who knows? Maybe we'll pop in there a couple times and try to keep the conversation going down there. But anyway, that's going to be it. We've already almost gone 2 hours, so I love you guys. PT Nation, keep going strong, and we will see you guys in the next episode. Good night, everybody.
Laters.
And watch Aliens 3.